Hello, spooky friends, and welcome to the 2-year anniversary episode of the Scary-ish podcast.
Woo!
I'm Robin Grace, and this is Adam Diaz.
Hello.
And we've been your lovely hosts for 2 years now.
Indeed we have, yeah. There's 52 weeks in a year, so episode 104 is the big 2-year anniversary. I realized we didn't do anything for a 1 year, so I was like, I actually am very proud of this 2-year mark, because it's officially the farthest any podcast either of us been attached to has ever gone. That's actually been official for a while now. But yeah, this is kind of a big anniversary for us.
So wait, it's not 103? Because there's an episode 0. Does that not count?
No, I didn't count episode 0.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I went with 104 because we started on December 3rd, December 4th.
Okay.
That's right around the time that I think our first episode published. Because we launched with episodes 0, 1, and 2, I think, all at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Maybe it was just 0 and 1, actually, but I'm pretty sure they hit around that December 3rd, December 4th time frame, and we're recording this December 2nd, and it will release on December 3rd. So it's almost like 2 years to the day.
Wow.
Yeah, so a few things before we get started. If you're looking for the normal topics that we typically do, this episode is going to be special, and I think I just heard everyone turn it off. We're not going to cover any specific topic. We're actually going to go over some questions that you folks have asked us. Some of them do have stuff that's paranormal, because I did compile this list of questions. We have around 30 or so that we're going to be covering tonight.
Wow, that's a lot of questions.
Some of them might be quick hits. Some of them might take a little bit longer. And some of them are about the show. Some of them are about the show's future, the show's past. Some of them are about our future. Some of them are about just us in general.
Cute.
So we are going to cover some paranormal stuff. We might talk about some true crime stuff that might be coming up in the future. Who knows? But yeah, it is a very special episode, so it's going to be a little bit different. And then next week, I'm pretty sure I'm covering the Illuminati. So that'll be a big episode.
That's a big call out.
Didn't want to do 30 questions with Illuminati at the exact same time because the secret society would be sitting in their meeting rooms listening to the episode like, this is so boring.
It's funny because I just started watching the Sleepy Hollow TV show, and I just
got... That is Freemasons, right? Okay.
I just got to the episode about Freemasons, so I'm like, all the conspiracy theories in my life.
Right. I think, we'll get to some of the other stuff. We do want to address one correction that we have from a previous episode. Robin's going to go ahead and take that.
All right. So one of our spooky friends, Grace, messaged me today, and she's like, oh, my boyfriend's a big fan of Bruce Lee, and just wanted to say he didn't die of a gunshot. And I had no idea because I don't know anything about Bruce Lee except his favorite drink, which is, by the way, water.
It's the worst racist joke we've ever had on the show. You can say it. I shouldn't have said it in unison with you.
But yeah.
For those of you who couldn't understand, it's water, but it's pronounced water.
Anyway, so what did he actually die of? Because you looked it up.
He died of some sort of, I think it was a pulmonary embolism in his brain or something along those lines. Essentially what happened is he was allergic to a medicine that he was given and his brain swelled. And complications from that caused him to die. So it was something that was really bizarre. And at the time, they weren't exactly sure what had happened. At this point, I think in 2005, they updated the official cause of death to severe allergic reaction from a medication, which is horrible to think about because he probably had a medication for something small that was wrong.
Right. And he was only 32.
Yeah, he was super young.
Yeah, he's super young. And it doesn't make it any less tragic. So
without a doubt. Yeah, you don't have to be shot for it to be tragic. But we could just say that Bruce Lee was shot by the gun of life.
Wow.
So technically,
oh my gosh.
I wasn't wrong. So that's my mental gymnastics to get through that one.
Anyway.
So before we jump into the questions that we have from you folks, if you're looking for story time, if you're looking for some homegrown horrors, those will be on Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can join us over there at youtube.com/scarish.
Those are recorded live at those
Those are live at that time. Or twitch.tv/scarish podcast. Those are two ways where you can watch us live, interact with us as they go along. If you have a story you'd like to get on that episode or any of the future episodes, please email storytime@scarish.com and then hit us up on any of our social medias. Best way to find those is to go to our website, scarish.com, and then once you are there, just go ahead and click on any of our social media links, and that's the best way to get to us. So, all right, I think we're going to just jump in to some of these questions, unless you had any other things that you want to go over.
That's good.
Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to do a question from me to Robin, then from Robin to me, and then we're going to cover about 12, 13 of your folks' questions. Then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back, and then we'll start off again with a question from me to Robin and Robin to me, and then finish out with the last 13 or 14 from you folks. So there's going to be a few, so we hope you guys enjoy this. If you don't, we're sorry. We'll be back with regularly scheduled content next week. So I think the first thing that I want to ask you, Robin, that didn't come up in any of the questions, because you folks had some amazing questions, is what is one thing you wish people knew about either us or the process we go through for making Scary-ish?
I just want everyone to understand sometimes how hard it is for us to get through doing one, or to get up and get the inspiration to do one, because life is very hard. And sometimes we don't feel well, or
like tonight,
or school's really stressful, and all I want to do is sit there and cry and quit. And some days we're like, oh, so this is the last episode of Scary-ish, right? We're never doing it again.
We joke around about that. Not very often, but we do joke around about that.
Because it's really difficult sometimes, and that's with any creative anything. It doesn't have to be creative. Anything anyone does in their life, sometimes it's just really hard to do. And making a podcast like Scary-ish, or any podcast or anything, is really hard.
Yeah.
And so we appreciate when people are like, we're so thankful for what you do, and everybody who supports us and shares us with their friends and helps us, I don't know what the word is, monetarily.
Anyone that donates.
Yeah, anybody who donates, like, that stuff helps us out a lot.
Even if people are giving like $1 or $3 at the end of the month, when
it
things
adds
are like,
up.
it does add up, and the show does incur cost to us, and not just our time, which is something that when we started it, we're like, that's cool, man. We really want to do this. That has never waned. In fact, it's stronger than it ever has been, because it's harder than it ever has been. But when we look at stuff where it's like, people really want us to keep doing this. It's not just like, oh, someone gave me $1, so I'm going to make sure I have an episode ready for them. It's sincerely like, they actually support us to the point where times are tight, man, for a lot of people all over the place.
Absolutely.
Someone giving me 4 quarters every month actually means a whole hell of a lot, like I never thought it would. So I think for me, when it comes to this one, I just want people to know, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, that it is really, really hard. And what we invest most into the show, besides our money, is our time. And we put a lot of effort into this show. Like, I know that I do the editing, and I set up the recording, and then Robin takes care of the marketing. We kind of both split the social media. I think she's a little bit more active, but it's not just like 5-hour research, 2-hour record, 2 or 3 hour edit. You know, and top of that, it's like making sure that we're responsive to the community, because it's not just about like, well, this is a community that we built out, so we have to be responsive. It's like, no, dude, like, we don't want to ignore our friends who support us, type of thing. So, I'm not saying it takes a toll. There's just a lot that goes into it, and I don't think we've ever really considered stopping or really thought about like a finish line or anything like that. But every now and then I contemplate, like, how much free time would I have had I never started Scary-ish?
Yeah, if we because Mondays and Wednesdays, like today, well, not just today, but for a couple weeks now, my classmates are like, we're having a group meeting for this project that's due in a couple weeks, and they meet up on Monday, and I have to tell them, like, no, dude, I'm recording, sorry.
Yeah, I have a thing for work on Wednesday, and it's supposed to be like a team building activity outside of work for management, and it's from, I think, 4 to 7, and it's like, cool, I'll be there for maybe an hour, you know, and after that I have to come home, because Wednesday 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, like, we record, you know, that's what we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that I don't want to hang too much on. This is question 1 of like 30.
I know. Oh, how many minutes is this? Oh my god.
We're at about the 10-minute mark. But yeah, there's a lot of editing that goes into this, so it's probably more like the 8-minute mark. But still, yeah, I think that's the big one for me, is understand that even if an episode comes out and there's like a burp left in, I know I left a burp in an episode like 4 or 5 episodes back. There's a whole lot that goes in. It's not just like, I was fucking lazy or anything like that. It's like, no, we're trying to provide you with the best content we possibly can. So right on. Robin, what's the next question? This one's from you to me.
Okay, so this one, what topic are you most excited to cover in the future?
What's really funny about this question is I asked Robin before the show, like, write 2 questions and send them to me, and I'll drop them in this Excel file that we can read off of. And she's like, no, I don't want to send it to you. Like, I'll know them. So eventually she broke and she sent them to me, and I was like, now this is why I wanted you to send them to me, because I have this exact question of the only 2 questions I could possibly ask. So thank you for stealing it. I'll have to make up one halfway down. For me, it's the Zimbabwe alien experience of like 1994, I think.
What?
Essentially, something happened where there was an unidentified
Spoilers.
flying object that landed, and some unidentified creature got out of the craft, and it was witnessed by a bunch of people. And it happened like by a school, so a bunch of these kids witnessed it. And there's all this information on it, and there's a documentary that was recently being developed. I don't know if it's actually been released yet, but in the course of researching this, I was actually going to cover this months ago. And I noticed that everything I had kept leading back to a couple researchers, and I found out that these guys were making a documentary, so I said, fuck it, I'm going to email them and see if they want to come on the show.
Did they answer?
I emailed them, and they emailed back, and they're like, hey, we think your show sounds awesome, and we'd love to come on. Unfortunately, we're in crunch time right now to get this documentary out.
But afterwards?
Maybe, you know? And
wow.
like they emailed us back, and I really want to do something where we Skype them in and record their audio, or if they're ever in the Las Vegas region, we can actually just have them over and bullshit with them and then have a microphone there to record us. But yeah, that's the one I think I'm most excited for in the future. What about you? What topic are you most excited to cover in the future?
I am so into that true crime, and there's an episode that we both discussed where it was like, I'm going to cover Charles Manson and you're going to cover whatever topic that had to do with it.
Yeah, there's some paranormal stuff involved in Charles Manson. I think it's actually a haunted Hollywood, where there's a curse for people. And I have like 3 or 4 more haunted Hollywood topics already picked. I know Wizard of Oz is probably the most highly requested haunted Hollywood that I've ever seen. I think Rosemary's Baby is on there. I know I definitely have the Curse of Superman. I think the Curse of Superman is the one that overlaps with the Charles Manson killing. So
okay,
that'll be really fun.
Yeah,
to do.
So that's what I'm really excited about, to get to cover that one.
Cool. That does sound exciting. So we're gonna move into the questions that we got from you folks. I'm gonna give first names here. So if you're like, oh my god, that's me, then yeah, it's you. The first one. The first one we have is from Carly, and the question is, what was the most challenging topic for each of you to cover?
So I think the most challenging one for me is the Jeffrey Dahmer one. That's the one where...
Made you hungry the whole episode?
No, it's just because there were so many details and so much in his life and the things that happened with the police, and there were just so many details that had to be covered, and then so many different sources. So you're pulling data from all these different sources into one thing, and then you're matching things up. And then when things don't match up, you have to go to other sources and see, what is what, what's real, what's not. And it was just a lot more research than I expected it to be. And it was a lot of data. I
think you did a really good job with it.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed it. I really love true crime. So for me, it was worth it. It was worth it to go through all that research because it was really interesting and really morbid. And maybe that makes me a strange person. But
strange people are the best people, though, man.
Oh, thanks. Getting to know all those little details about this serial killer was just so cool. And it's just really interesting for me. It's
very interesting in general. I am a fan of true crime, and I like My Favorite Murder a lot. I haven't listened to it as much recently because I stopped listening to a lot of the content I usually take in, so it doesn't bleed into our show. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I adore My Favorite Murder because I do like true crime, and I really like hearing about things I've never heard of before. And when I listened to you talk about Jeffrey Dahmer, I was like, oh, I don't know shit about this dude. So it was really fascinating for me to hear you talk about it.
Oh, cool.
For me, the most challenging one was probably the one about my dad. My dad's life growing up.
Really?
I called it The Haunting on Carolina Street because I don't really talk to most of those people anymore that I told the story for. I think that's why it took me about 50 episodes to get into it. And my dad does not like to talk about that, about the things that he went through growing up. My dad had a very difficult life growing up. Like, even if he wouldn't have had a haunted house, he had a very difficult life growing up. So it was one of those things where I wanted to pay it the respect it deserved, and also was very mindful about the fact that at some point, any of those family members who I don't really contact, if they found out I covered it, could basically come to me and be like, yo, what the fuck? So I wanted to make sure that I talked about it respectfully, which is something we kind of already do.
Yeah.
And I think that another one is Elisa Lam. I really wanted to highlight the fact that it's like, this is a super creepy story, which is what everyone else does, but it's like, this was a person, you know? It's not just a creepy story.
It's a true crime.
Yeah, sometimes when you do those things, you get kind of connected to the person that you're researching, because you're doing all this research, and it's like, oh, I have her birth certificate here. Oh, I have this story about everything she went through leading up to this, and I have her death certificate, and now I'm reading a coroner's report about how she died. You know, so it's something that I think those two kind of affected me the most, but my dad's one was definitely, I think, the one that affected me by far the most, because I had to go to lunch with him, which I do usually around every week, and be like, hey, tell me about the hardest thing that ever happened to you growing up. Like, because I'm going to talk about it on my show to a bunch of people, and he was just like, okay, and he did. But yeah, I think that one for me was the most challenging for sure.
Cool. All right, so the next question here is from Jace, and it says, did you guys think you would make it this far, and knowing that so many people love to listen to you guys?
No,
I honestly didn't either. Oh my gosh, when we started getting stories in our email, we're like,
what the fuck?
What? These are actual stories.
I was like,
people
we
are
have
sending
spam.
us stuff.
Like, babe, we have spam in the inbox. What's going on right now?
And so when we first started getting stories, I was just so mind blown. And then we started getting more and more and more. And now we have such a big backlog of stories. And it's all thanks to everyone. And we had no idea that you guys would actually like us. So
it's kind of funny too, because like I think about why we started it, and we talked about starting this a long time before we started it, you know. And I had people at work that were talking about doing something similar. It was a little bit different, and I was like, you guys should do that. And if you want me to help out, like I'll produce, like I'll give you guys microphones, I'll edit. And I kind of wanted to be part of something where I wasn't hosting or on the microphone, because we had Nerd Chills at the time. And then they never moved forward with it, and I just told them, like, look, like, I really want to produce content similar to this, and I want you guys to say that you're comfortable with it before I move forward. And it took them a while to say, yeah, we're comfortable with it, because our idea is very different than theirs. And then when we wound up moving forward with it, I thought, like, I never really thought about, will people listen to it? You know? Because Nerd Chills had such a small fan base, if you could even call it that. I just had in my head primarily, like, I want to make the content I want to listen to. Because I kept trying to find ghost story podcasts or paranormal podcasts, and I kept finding stuff that was similar to it, but a lot of it wanted to be something else, you know?
Yeah.
So when we started, it was just like, let's just make something that feels comfortable for us, and then realizing people were actually listening to it because, you know, we paid for statistical reporting where we could see, like, how many people from each state, how many people from each country.
Oh, yeah, and then we see how many people from all these different countries listen, and we're just like, what?
I never would have guessed it would be like this. I'm very happy, because it feels like this is something that we might be good at, you know? We're at 104 episodes. We've been doing it for 2 years, and, you know, sometimes when you start a podcast, you're just kind of talking into the void or talking to yourself.
Yeah.
And I never would have guessed that someone would actually listen to us. I thought we were going to be talking to the void and just tell people, like, it's actually a really good show. You should listen to it.
Yeah.
But, instead, no, it's a little bit different. It's I'm kind of a stat whore, and I try and not be that. I try and not check the stats like 5 times a day. But I think one of the things I'm most proud of is we've been listened to in over 100 countries. And I can't even name 100 countries. So,
really?
Yeah, that's incredible to me.
I don't think I could either.
It's really cool. And getting emails from all over the world is really cool, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I definitely never expected it. And for people to be so supportive, I never, ever would have guessed that either. So.
Yeah, and thank you to all our OG starters. And, I mean...
There's more questions down the way, and I think we'll probably give some shout-outs, too, by the end of the episode. But,
oh, cool.
Yeah, I definitely want to give some shout-outs, too, by the end of the episode. Okay, we're cruising along at about 5 minutes per question right now, so we're going to have, like, super long episode. Okay, let's keep going.
Depends on, how the other questions go. We'll see.
That's true. Okay, so this one's from Luna Anglitch. And this is one we actually had mentioned by a few other people whose names I didn't write down. The first two were Luna and Glitch. They came in almost at the same exact time, and it is, what has been your favorite topic to cover?
Oh, that's a hard one because
it's like
we've
being
done
asked
so many.
to pick your favorite kid.
Oh, and we've done so many. There have been episodes where I finish my script and I go, wow, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
You know?
Every time I have that feeling, it's not listened to.
Really?
I shouldn't say it's not listened to. Every time I have that feeling, it's like you have a statistical anomaly like every 4 to 6 episodes where it's just not as downloaded as the other ones.
Yeah.
And every time I finish an episode, I was like, man, this is really good. Like, I'm so proud of this. I check the download numbers at the end of the day. I'm like, oh, fuck, we got crushed. And it's just so upsetting for me. But, okay, which one was your favorite?
I think my favorites are I know it's strange, but all the true crime ones, like the cult ones, I really enjoy. I think my favorite that I've covered was the sarin attack in Japan.
Yeah, that one was
because it's just
bonkers.
I had no idea that had happened, and it was just so mind-blowing. And then how quickly the Japanese were like, we're going to get everybody back on the trains, and it's going to be all cleaned out, and everyone's going to get their day to go.
Right.
You know, so it's just absolutely incredible. And it's just such a neat thing when you have something so real, like it happened, and this is how people handled it. And getting to know that and getting to see the system of how they did things, it's just really interesting. And
it's definitely fun, too, because we haven't done a lot of true crime. We're doing a lot of stuff that's speculative, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know how to say that word without sounding stupid or drunk.
Speculative?
Speculative. We're not doing things that are 100% confirmed, you know? We're
Right.
doing things that are spooky, paranormal.
All about the ghosts.
I use the disclaimer, this could all be bullshit. It's really exciting when you get to say, this is all true. This is all 100% true.
Yes.
This happened.
Right.
It's an exciting experience. For me, I think my favorite episode was episode 21, which is where I covered Frenchie. Frenchie
Oh, okay, cool.
is someone who has been in the Conjuring universe,
Yes.
was not accurately represented. I didn't realize it at the time. I don't know if that movie was actually out at the time where Frenchie was in it.
No, none didn't come out yet.
Yeah, and it was something where I researched it. I do this thing a lot where I find books that are written about a subject, and I debate about buying them and realize I'm only going to need it for this 5-hour window. So I try and find free previews that'll give you like 40 or 50 pages or every third page, and sometimes you get a really big chunk of a book. And I probably did the most research I've ever done for episode 21, Frenchie's story, because the more I did it, the more I realized all the things I could find are based off these books I've read, which were published before the story ended. The more research I did to figure out if Frenchie was still alive, I realized he was not alive, he was dead. And then I figured out he was dead because things went horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And when looking for his death certificate to validate, because I don't think anyone really realizes how truly I make sure my details are accurate. Sometimes I'll say, like, I don't know if this is true or not, but I try and make sure that at least I'm not telling you guys bullshit. I'm not trying to sensationalize something. It takes a lot of effort to not church up the writing. I want it to be exactly what happened. And when I looked for his death certificate, I found his dad's death certificate. And his dad's death certificate talked about how he died. And then I found newspaper articles from the 40s that talked about this horrible tragedy that had happened in front of the kid, in front of Frenchie. And it was like, wow, this makes this even scarier. He died very similarly to how his dad died. And I had just read details about how the demon that was supposed to be haunting his family was trying to make him repeat the sins of his father. And it was, it's probably the creepiest. Not the creepiest. It's one of the top 5, though.
Wow.
But that, I think, is my favorite because I put in a lot of research on that.
Yeah,
one.
when it came back around that he ended up killing...
He attempted to kill his wife.
Yeah.
And then he killed himself.
Yeah, where it was just, what?
I was mind blown. I was
Yeah.
like, this is scary. Like, and that's one of those moments where I could say, this is exactly what happened. And it's a little bit true crime as well. Because if we were a true crime podcast, we could have covered that, you know, this weird murder that just overlapped for whatever reason with father and son. But yeah, episode 21 for me was one of my favorites. So go ahead and listen to it if you want.
Okay. All right. So the next question comes from Acid Cat Freak on Twitter.
Pretty good name.
And and the question is, funniest paranormal experience? I've never had one, so
I don't think
know.
we really have paranormal experiences. I think we've had, like, weird coincidences that are kind of creepy.
Things that freak us out, like that day when the wires for the lights kept moving by themselves.
That was weird.
And twisting by themselves. There was something recently that freaked me out.
That's my funniest paranormal experience. Mostly it's the most recent one because they freak Robin out so much. So we were getting ready for Thanksgiving. On Thanksgiving, I was in the shower. She was running in and out of the bathroom constantly.
No. So I was in the bathroom doing my makeup, right? And he gets in the shower and I'm doing my makeup and I have to run downstairs because I have my biscuits in the oven. And
she left like 2 or 3 times. Full disclosure, she walked out of the bathroom and came back in 2 or 3 times.
So the last one, or second to last one, I was afraid they were burning, and my sister's playing Overwatch, so she's not getting off her butt to go check on them, right? She's just like, hey, the alarm's been going off. I'm like, what the fuck? And so I run out of the bathroom, right? I run out of the bathroom, go downstairs, check on my biscuits. I get back upstairs, and the freaking door is locked. And
she's banging on the door, yelling at me like I got out of the shower mid-shower to lock the door to play a prank.
I didn't think it was for a prank. I thought it's because my sister's in the loft, and he didn't want her to walk in on him in the shower, that kind of thing.
Because she has a habit of, when I'm taking a shit, to come into the bathroom, walk out, and leave the door wide open with people standing there, which she had done 3 minutes prior to this happening.
And so that's what I thought he locked the door for.
And I didn't. I never got out of the shower, and she's yelling at me like it's somehow my fault.
So
and
I was like, why is the door locked?
But here's the thing that annoyed me the most. I have soap in my eyes trying to yell through the water, and I'm like, every time I lock that fucking door, you pick the lock and just walk in. Every single time. It takes you 5 seconds. So I'm like, why don't you do what you've always done since we've lived in this house right now instead of yelling at me?
I had just got my nails done, and I couldn't do it.
You're a wimp.
I had just gotten my nails done. I was like, I'm not going to fucking break my nail.
You just needed to believe in yourself. That's not the paranormal thing. The creepy thing is that
it happens again.
After Thanksgiving, after everyone had left, it's just like me, Robin, and Robin's sister downstairs, and I walked to the bathroom downstairs, which is a different bathroom than what we're talking about, and I closed the door behind me, and I did not lock the door, because every time I lock a door, Robin comes in anyway, so I'm just like, I'll just leave it unlocked. I used the restroom really quick. It was in number 1, no big deal. Wash my hands, and then I went to leave, and the door was fucking locked. And I was like, that's weird, because this lock is really hard to lock. So I was like, maybe someone used it during Thanksgiving and locked the door, but didn't push it all the way closed, you know? And then pulled it open. That's a very rational explanation. But it was weird because it was like the same coincidence happened twice in one day.
Yeah.
Within hours of each other. So I came out and I said, like, you want to know something creepy? And Robin's like, what? I was like, that door locked on its own, too. She's like, oh my God, no, don't fucking tell me that. No, don't tell me that. I have to go to the bathroom.
So
I have to go to the bathroom. Someone go to the bathroom with me. And she freaked the fuck out. And I was trying to put away food like, yeah, I don't have time. I'm too tired.
So I made my sister go to the bathroom with me because I was not going to get locked in there with demons by myself.
So she's very cautious. She'd rather have someone in there be locked in there with her to probably get possessed.
But see, what's frustrating with the bathroom downstairs is it is so hard to close that door.
It is. It's extremely difficult to push that door
closed. I closed that door earlier today to try and go to the bathroom, and it just opened
Pops
all
open
the way.
And swings all the way.
Swings all the way open. And it's so annoying. So it's like the door locked on its own. How the fuck did it lock on its own?
It's weird that door had it happen to it. But yeah, so that's probably the funniest paranormal experience that we've had, which is also probably the most recent one.
There's the coincidental scary things that happen, like the stupid fire alarm battery exploding in its casing, and then...
I wasn't here for that one.
Oh my God.
It's not paranormal.
But it was just so scary. It was horrifying. It was absolutely scary. That scared the shit out of me.
That's funny.
But yeah. I don't know. Not too many actual paranormal experiences, just things that are like, it's really scary.
Yeah. All right. The next one is from Nathan C. And the question is, how does it feel doing Scary-ish for 2 years?
Feels nice. Feels so nice. It feels I'm tired.
I was going to say, the two things that come to my mind immediately is exhausting and rewarding. Because 2 years is a long time. And
it is a long time.
I don't think we really considered how quickly you burn through content when you do 2 topics per episode and you're a weekly podcast. Because we've done 104, you know?
Yeah.
So things like having special guests on help us preserve content for the future. And it also helps us not have to do a day of research on a topic that we're only going to spend like an hour covering max, you know? It's nice to have people come on and tell their stories. I think it's a lot more personal. It's a bit of a different experience. But as far as doing Scary-ish for 2 years, I think those two feelings go hand in hand, exhausting and rewarding. And
it is
I think
very
that's
rewarding.
Why we keep moving forward with it.
And it's really cool because we've made all these new friends from just doing this podcast and getting to know all these people. And we've made these real life friends, and it's so great.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool that we've met all these people from these different countries. And I mean, Sam freaking got married.
I know, that's so crazy. Sam and Andrew met through the community. Oh my gosh. Sam moved from Isle of Man. She and she lives in America now. She married Andrew. We've met them multiple times.
Oh my gosh.
They invited us to their wedding, which was crazy, which, you know, little peek behind the curtain, we do have big kid JOBs, which we have to concentrate on. So sometimes you have to worry about the fact you don't have money and you don't have time off, and it's like we really wanted to go. But it's just been really rewarding.
It's been really, 2 years. That's 2 years. Our podcast can walk and talk.
And be a little asshole. Yep. I will say it's, I would never work this hard on something that I didn't absolutely love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we work really, really hard on this, and that's how I know we really love it, is we don't even think about it. It's just what we do. We don't sit around and think like, oh, I can't believe I have to do this for the podcast. It's like, no, it's just, we know we have to do it. We know we have to have a new design every 3 months. We know we have to have goals. We know we have to do the show. We have to do research. We have to reach out. But because it is something that's just a part of us, and it's because we've done it for 2 years that it is such a huge part of our life.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like an old hat. It fits perfectly, and I wish it was shiny and new still, but we're trying to make it as pretty as possible.
I've never had a hat last 2 years.
I have a hat that looks so awful. It's one of my Cubs hats.
The white one that I got you?
Yeah. It's so old and it's covered in dust because it's been through so much, and it's my favorite hat, and I would wear it everywhere if it wasn't like, grimy.
Sweaty and
a little bit gross. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Is it my turn to read something?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So this one's from Fake Eye, also known as Captain Fake Eye.
Didn't fucking realize this was the same person.
It's in the name.
I thought it was something a little bit different. I know Captain Fake Eye was also FEICAI and other social medias. So Fake Eye, you blew my fucking mind today. Thank you for that.
Wow. Okay, the question is, what other podcasts do you listen to and why? You go first.
You want me to go first? Yeah. I listen to a lot of stuff that's gaming related or news related or movie related. I do imbibe that content because it is very different from what we do. So I listen to a lot of the stuff from IGN Unlocked, IGN Unfiltered, which is an interview show, which I absolutely adore. Both of those have Ryan McCaffrey as the host, who I think is phenomenal. Almost got to meet him, but I was having the worst day of my fucking life that I've ever had.
Oh my god, yeah, he was just like, and that is him right
I was
there.
Literally like, I was going to show him this thing that was in my email address, but it was in my Tesla email, and they just fucking fired me, and now it's shut down, and I can't get into it, so if I run into that guy, I won't have the thing to show to him, and literally, as I was saying that, he walked by. I also listened to the PS4 IGN show, the Nintendo IGN show. I listened to Kinda Funny, which is another gaming show, because I supported those guys. When they're at IGN, they left to start their own business. I listened to some stuff by Colin Moriarty. He split with Kinda Funny. He was one of the original founders. And then I listened to a lot of stuff on Maximum Fun. I like Judge John Hodgman. I listen to Adventure Zone more than any other podcast.
I just love Griffin McElroy's voice. I love his voice and his laugh.
I love all
just think
three
he's
of
so
their
funny.
laughs. I love all four of their laughs. I love their dad and the three brothers because they're authentic laughs.
Griffin's
and they
my
just
favorite.
Make you smile. I think Griffin's probably my favorite too. I love Justin's laugh too. I love Travis. It's hard to pick. I like watching like content they produce. I watch World of Peacecraft, which is something that Griffin did on YouTube, which is just something that like other people have done before, where you run through World of Warcraft but you don't kill
Factory,
anything.
Him and Justin is just so funny.
I have a lot of shit that I imbibe, and I've purposely loaded myself so I don't listen to anything similar to our show. I don't listen to any true crime anymore. I don't listen to any paranormal stuff because I want our thing to sound more authentic.
I'm on
like
that same boat with you, because since we've started this podcast, I don't listen to lore anymore. So I don't have time to listen to lore. I'm trying to catch up on My Favorite Murder because that is my favorite podcast. And I just think those women are so funny. And
they're badasses.
They're much older than I am right now. And they're still able to do so much, and they're out there and they're working for these TV shows as writers or on TV shows themselves, and then they run multiple podcasts, and now they have their own podcast network. It's just like they're absolutely incredible. And then there's
a question later about inspirational people.
Okay.
And they're definitely on that fucking list.
And then I listen to The Tripod. Because
that's such a good name for a show, man.
I love the Try Guys so much. They make me laugh so freaking much, and so I just support them everywhere. I mean, I haven't bought their book yet because it's not something that I think I'll ever actually read, but I definitely watch all their videos on YouTube, and I listen to the podcast, and I just think they're so freaking funny, and I don't know, it's just, I think those two are the things that if I get into my car, I'm like, not in the mood for music today. I'm going to listen to a podcast. Those are the two that I listen to. And then sometimes once in a blue moon, I'll listen to lore. I used to listen to Last Podcast on the Left a lot. But again, once I started our podcast, I was like, I can't listen to these because...
You don't want any of their details
Right.
to feed into your
Yes.
thing that you can't confirm.
Yes.
That's a lot of reasons why I gave up a lot of the other stuff I used to listen to.
Yeah, so... Yep.
Right on.
Yep.
This next one is from Laura Ann, and I'll let you read this one, actually.
So question for Adam. What is one thing you love about Robin? Aw, that's cute.
Dat ass.
Oh my god, no, a real answer.
I love Robin's work ethic. It's always been that way. The day I met Robin... Well, okay, that's not true. The day I met Robin, she blew me off. She was like, fuck this guy. I have a work interview.
I didn't even say that.
She didn't say that, but that's her attitude. Like, I went to shake her hand. She didn't shake my hand.
I didn't know you went to shake my hand.
She was like, fuck him. I don't care. I'm interviewing with his boss. I don't have anything to do with this dude. She obviously got the job, but the first day we met, we worked together. And we were working at GameStop. I was putting back cases. Like, when people come up, they bring a case off the wall. That case does not have the game in it. So they hand it to you. You go into the drawer. You find the game. And then you give it to them. And usually it's like, you have a bunch of extras, so you hand them a new case with the game in it, and then you put that empty case on the counter, and those are called go-backs. And if you're busy, your stack of go-backs gets higher and higher and higher. And I came in to start my shift at like 1, and there was this like fucking 40,000 go-backs that needed to go on the floor. And I was pissed. I was like, someone could have just gone and did that while someone else handled the rush just to keep this pile down. And then both of those people left, and I was like, fuck you guys, I hate you. So I took a huge stack because we were kind of slow, and I started putting them back on the wall, and I was frustrated. I actually was really frustrated. And then I realized, like, there's some Asian chick in the store moving cases around. I'm like, what is this bitch's problem? And then I look back, like, about a minute later, I was like, oh, it's the new girl, and she came in, and she didn't ask me what should I do. She saw go-backs, and she started putting them back.
It's because I used to be a store manager, so I got to this job, I'm like, all right, this is the easiest fucking job ever, because now I just get to do the baby work, so I'm like, put away cases, fuck it. Like,
but yeah, it's her work ethic, because that's the first thing I noticed about her. And when we first got together, Robin worked 3 jobs and went to school full time, which is not easy to do. It's not easy to do at all, and we struggled for a while, like just working our asses off. I worked down in Arizona. I was doing like a 3-hour commute to work, working 45, 50 hours a week, and then during the fucking holidays, I'd work close to 60 hours, and Robin was doing like 3 retail jobs, I think. 2 retail jobs, 1 internship for her schooling, and it was just something where if I'm sick, I can't call out unless she approves it, because she'll be like, go to work, you're being a little bitch right now. Because she doesn't take time off, like, ever. She's always...
That's bullshit. I take time off.
Sometimes you do, but realistically, I've never met a person who's less apt to call in sick when they're sick and doesn't take mental health days, which is probably why you're crazy sometimes. But you put in a lot of work into literally every single thing that you do.
Yeah, I think I need to take more mental health days sometimes.
It would definitely be a mental health day for me as well, so that I don't have to come home and have you just be like, I hate you and I don't know why.
All right, so you read the next one.
All right, the next one is a question for Robin. What is one thing you love about Adam?
I think you're very charismatic, and everyone loves you, and I don't know why.
So that's not something that you love about me then?
It's just like, you're able to just talk to people and make friends with people, and I think that's really freaking cool. And when I met your friends, I'm like, you're really mean to your friends, but they really love you, and I just don't get it
at all.
And then all my coworkers at work, they're like, man, Adam's got that radio, bro. Like, you belong on radio, you know? And everyone's just like, he's so charismatic, and everyone always is like, you're so nice, but I don't know, you're so cute, and
thank you.
You're so, I just love your charisma. And
people at work will say, like, you're so mean to everyone. I don't know why everyone likes you. And I'm like, I don't know. This has been my whole life.
That's like
people like me, and I'm mean and mean and mean, and they're just like, you're so funny.
You know what you should do? Start a cult.
No, I could, but no, I'm not going to do that. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's just a reflection of the fact that I'm super insecure, and it's just like everyone else. You know, there's things I like about myself, and there's things that I don't, and there are very few things I am, like, prideful about. I enjoy the fact that I can make people like me, I can make people feel better. And I've had that gift for a very long time. And it's usually not by the traditional method where you're like, everything's going to be okay. It's like, listen, you stupid piece of shit. You know, and I think it's
the gift of gab.
My dad used to tell me that exact thing. He used to introduce me to people as his son with the gift of gab. And he would tell them he will either dazzle you with his brilliance or baffle you with his bullshit. And I love that so much. But yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
thank you. All right, this next one is from Pippin, and it says, which stories creeped you out the most in either homegrown horrors or topic episodes? I have answers for homegrown horrors and topic episodes.
So the homegrown horror one, the one that messed me up was when, I guess the dad was cheating on the mom.
Yep, that's the same one for me.
Yeah, and then the grandpa freaking dies?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
What's crazy about that is I tried to tell people, I think it's like Storytime 7. It's one of the first Storytimes we ever did. And I tried to tell some of our friends, and they're like, oh, it's creepypasta. And I was like, oh, they must have heard of it before. And I searched the internet. I cannot find this fucking story literally anywhere. So it's like they saved it for our show if it's fake, or it actually happened to someone. And this summer, I was back in Chicago for a bachelor party, and I was talking to Garrett, and I'll talk about Garrett a little bit later. Spoilers for Garrett. But we were talking about the show, and we were talking about podcasts in general, much to the chagrin of everyone else at the bachelor party.
It's like every party we go to,
That's
like,
all we talk about.
Yeah, but anytime Garrett enters the room, someone has to go like, have you guys heard about podcasts?
Yeah, they rip on him so much because he works in podcasts. He's a producer or an editor. I'm not exactly sure what his title is now for Hello from the Magic Tavern, which is another show that I listen to. I haven't listened to it as much lately, but it's really cool to have a friend to sit down and talk to, not just about content, but about like creation. And I was just talking in general about like, we get a lot of stuff from a lot of people. And I was like, and one of the only story that ever really affected me where I was like, I stopped reading it. And I was like, this is fucking terrifying, was that story. And when I mentioned it, I only had one. He was like, the one with the guy standing outside and the grandmother died on the couch. I'm like, yes. He's like, dude, I paused that when I was listening to it. It's just, I have fucking cold chills thinking about it right now, dude. Like, that story was terrifying. I was like, this is a goddamn movie. It was so good.
It was so good.
I need to go back and see who wrote it and just email them back and just let them know, like, you affected me in some way.
You done fucked me up.
You fucked my shit up, bro.
So, okay, what about topic episode? You said you have a topic episode.
The Exorcist. I started doing I started doing Haunted Hollywood for The Exorcist.
Yeah.
You know, and I wanted to see, like, what effect this movie had when it came out. Because I remember hearing, like, some woman had her baby in the theater. She was so scared. And, like, people were passing out. So I was like, I need to look this shit up and see what actually happened. And it was pretty cool hearing all the weird things that happened when it released.
The fact that the church across the street from the movie
struck by lightning.
Yeah.
A bunch of shit happened. I was like, this is really creepy. So I was like, you know what? I know this is based on a true story. Let me see what I can dig up, because there's a lot more out nowadays about the people who had that. And when I found that fucking exorcism diary of the priest that was doing the exorcism, and it's a real document, and it's like it had been put up on the internet and taken down so many times. So like, I didn't go dark web on this to find it, but I went deep web to get this fucking PDF. And when I found it, man, I would read it and I would take a break and do something else on Facebook. And that was the night I got up and turned on the hallway light. Because we were sitting in here, and for some reason, I felt like the darkness in the hallway was watching me while I was reading this diary. And I was like, I can just flip a switch and that feeling should go away. And I have cold chills thinking about that right now, too. Because I had nightmares for probably a week.
Really?
After that episode. Yeah, I woke up, like, in sweats twice. The night we recorded it, and then the next night. Because I was having I was having dreams that I had when I was younger of a demon that would, like, follow me around. And I can never see it. I just feel it there, and then all of a sudden horrible things start happening.
You were saying at one point too, you had like a night terror, or not a night terror, but like a
sleep paralysis.
Yeah, and you saw something outside our room.
That wasn't from The Exorcist.
Okay.
Though. But yeah, that topic episode, I remember doing it knowing full and well going into it. It's like, this is one of the things that kind of scares me when I dabble in it a little bit, is like true stories of exorcisms. Because two things, I'm going to find out two things. One, some really creepy paranormal shit happened, or someone with a horrible mental illness had something terrible happen to them, and both of those either scare me or break my heart. Aww. In most cases, both. So going into that, I was like, the most scared I've ever been doing an episode, but the person was okay. And that's what I always forget about that episode, is that in the end, it is one of the few exorcisms I've ever researched where the person was okay, never relapsed, never had anything else happen to them for the rest of their life.
Lucky.
And it's like, when you hear about exorcisms, you think this person's probably mentally disturbed in some way, shape, or form, and like something else will come along down the lines. That shit happened like 5 decades ago.
Wow.
The guy's still alive.
Whoa.
Nothing. I think he got a parking ticket in the 80s. That is it. So that one freaks me the fuck out, for sure. What about you?
I don't know about topic episodes that freak me out because we cover so many. I don't know. Has there been a ghost one that freaked me out? Really, the things that freak me out are like children and demons. Actual demons. Not so much ghosts, but when it's something that is so absolutely evil, that stuff freaks me out. So I don't think there's a particular topic episode that I could say that...
Robin's too steadfast for these things to affect her. But if she hears a noise while she's taking a poop, then she's going to freak out and be like, come hold my hand.
Sometimes if I'm in the office by myself and the hallway is dark and someone leaves the guest room open, I'm like, why, for one? Because it's just...
When she says someone, she means me, by the way.
It's just dark. It's just so dark and so scary, and I end up either closing the office door or leaving the office, you know what I mean, where I can't hang out in here anymore. So, I don't know. I'm scared of the dark, okay?
I don't realize how much I'm, like, put off by silence anymore, because I barely ever have it in my life. But yesterday, you and Liz and my mom went shopping, and it was just me here in this house. And I was really tired, and I didn't feel well, so I was like, I'm going to lay down. The dogs laid down, they went to sleep. And I came upstairs to grab my pillow. And, like, I do this thing nowadays where I've been doing this for a while in my adult life, where I challenge myself. I'm like, I'm not going to turn on any fucking lights. I'm a grown-up. I'm like, I'll walk in the darkness, whatever.
No.
I was born in the darkness, And I do the Bane thing in my head. And I walked upstairs and I grabbed my pillow. And I didn't think anything of it. And there was something else in the bedroom I wanted to grab. And I turned around and I went in the bedroom. And when I went in the second time, I was like, I really feel like I should not be in this room right now. And I was like, I feel that way because I'm alone. And there's no noise whatsoever. And those dogs are downstairs and they're sleeping. And the cat is wherever the fuck the cat is. And so, like, I think
it doesn't help that she's black.
Yeah, because you can't see her. So I grabbed my stuff and I went downstairs. And the dogs are both sleeping, but the cat was sitting at the bottom of the stairs, like...
That's terrifying.
She looked up and she saw me coming down, so she watched me come down. And she, like, jumped on me when I laid on the couch. So I was like, everything's fine. And I started to doze and I felt her jump off of me. And I figured she was going to go meow for food or, she meows for everything. And she sat down at the base of the stairs, and she kept staring up into the darkness.
Oh, God.
And I, like, looked over. I'm like, what are you doing? And she didn't acknowledge me, and I took a nap. I probably slept for, like, 30, 45 minutes. I woke up, and she was in the exact same spot.
Up.
And I was like, I'm sure she moved and came back, and she's looking at something specific. But to me, she's staring down the demons that creep me out upstairs to make sure those fuckers stay upstairs.
Aw, that's cute.
So that's what I wanted to tell myself about that. But, all right, we're going off the rails a little bit.
So, this next one... it's my turn. So, this next one's from Kat Beatrix, and it says, what goals do you have for the pod in the next year? Any equipment you'd like to get? Any improvements you want to make? I know my sister just bought a new... What are those things? Like a hook for the camera or something like that? Like an arm
like
for
a
the
stand
camera.
so that you can have it, like, be top down.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of that is directly
it's
for the podcast.
It's not for the pod, but that's how we want to grow as a podcast.
As far as content developers, I have a few things. Okay, let me take this one at a time. What goals do I have for this pod in the next year? I want to start doing more streaming. I want to start doing some horror game stuff because I fucking hate horror games. And it'll probably make really good content.
Silent Hill collection, and we'll
probably
play
make really
Hill.
good content to watch me and Robin and or one of us stream us doing horror stuff. More particularly horror games. That way we don't have to go out to haunted places because we can't afford to do that all the time. Any equipment you'd like to get? We need an office Xbox. We've been talking about it for a little while.
So that we can play the horror games. Here. Any improvements? I want better lighting. I think
I do too.
So since we've bought the laptop, I think we're going to reset our coffee goal. Because right now it was for the laptop and lighting, and
you keep saying laptop. It was a PC
or PC, whatever.
PC
So for the computer and all that stuff. And since we bought it now, I have to update all that stuff because we just right now we need lighting. So I think that's the big thing that I'd want to get.
A want, not a need, that I have is there's a particular brand of microphone that I really want to get. I've been wanting to get it for a very long time. I'll probably pay out of pocket for it one day when I want to make Robin really mad, because they're like $400 microphones, but they're just the top of the line microphones that we could get. And I would just love to have them. Right now it's a little bit difficult because we do have 2 different microphones, and editing is not a horrible thing, but it's made a little bit more difficult because we do have variation
quality
in our sound and things like that. And we record in an office on the corner of a house, and there's road noise going by, so sometimes to make sure the volume is proper, we have to turn it up, and then you guys can hear the cars passing in the background. I sincerely wish we had soundproof padding on the windows or something like that. We'll never wind up getting that. Robin refuses. But yeah, there's some stuff we want to do as far as the pod goes.
I want a new bookshelf so that we can clear this bookshelf off.
She wants more clutter.
No, I just want to clear this bookshelf off to put just scarier stuff, and put a bookshelf in the guest room so that we can move this stuff there and just clear this out, and then just put spooky friend art on the wall behind us and stuff like that. So when we get fan art and things like that, we can put it up there,
That's smart, yeah. And there's a few other things I want to do that's outside the pod. I'll probably talk about that a little bit later, though.
Yeah, cool.
All right, so this next one is from Hodor03, and it says, Hodor, 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 Hodor. Not really, but that's what it should say.
Hold the door.
It says, when will be the next meetup? So there's really 2 answers to this question in my brain, and Robin, you tell me if I'm correct. At 100 patrons, we're going to do something, or is it 150?
No, I think it's 150. We need to get to a certain Patreon goal. So there's a goal for how many patrons we have to have, and once we reach that goal, then we can start setting up something like going to the Stanley Hotel or going to a different place that is not here.
Right.
So,
because like we were talking about, we do pay out of pocket for this stuff. We're not saying this is our Patreon goal because we want to force people to give us money. We want to be able to afford to go.
Yeah, because like we said, we have these jobs that we have to do, and we don't make the best money. And so a lot of the stuff that we do happen to go do is out of pocket.
Right.
And when we went to San Jose, we got...
we hit our goal.
And
then we waited a couple months so we could collect off of the Patreon so we could put it all towards the trip.
Right. And we still had to pay out of pocket.
Right.
So it's something that it's not sustainable for us to keep going to these places. And Andrew, one of our spooky friends, did recommend hey, go to Virginia City because it's not that far from here.
Right.
But that would be a super tiny meetup, I think.
That leads pretty well into the second answer for this. And I think when we say meetup, it does not necessarily need to be attached to a spooky place or our Patreon goals, because we are based in Las Vegas. Our second largest audience is in Las Vegas. Our first is California, which is also nearby. So we could literally just do meetups by just going out and doing things that aren't necessarily spooky related. We could even do meetups.
We've hung out at Disneyland.
Yeah, we've had meetups at Disneyland before. We've met some folks that just came to Vegas.
There's that, and then there's the people at Disneyland that stopped us and we're like, oh my God, are you from the Scariest Podcast?
There's a question for that later.
Oh my God.
Hang on to
it was crazy. Okay.
But yeah, so I think we want to start having meetups, especially when 2020 kicks off. When we go out and do stuff locally and we let folks know hey, we're going to be here if you want to join us. It's a little bit difficult to plan for stuff like that because realistically, we like to eat. And if we're going to go to a restaurant and be hey, come out and say hi. Most of the time when we do meet up stuff like that, people show up that don't RSVP or let us know they're coming. So if we were to just go to Town Square, we're just going to do a GameWorks meetup where we hang out,
that would be
play
fun.
games. This is one of the things that's been in my brain for a while. It's games would make more sense to just hang out and do because that would be fun. And then once we've done that for a little while, we could all just sit down and eat or whatever.
I like going bowling.
We can go bowling.
Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff we can
bowling.
do locally, and I think Greg Miller is kind of my idol for stuff like this because when he worked for IGN, he worked for a company, right? So you're putting yourself in his position. He worked for this company. He was on a podcast. He was well known, but he was paid, what a normal person would be paid for working as a writer.
Yeah, right.
In San Francisco. So he was sure that he wanted to split off and do his own thing. So every time he went out, he would tweet, I'm going out, blah, 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 stop by if you want to see me. And he went to lunch with some of the other people at IGN, and I've listened to them talk about it, and they'd always tell him, can't we just have lunch? Does everything have to be a fucking meetup? And he was like, yes, it does. It absolutely does. I want to be accessible to anyone who wants to come talk to me. And they got people through doing that worked at IGN or worked with him later, and when he left IGN, he had a huge following of his own. They didn't just follow the content he created, they followed him. So he created a brand for himself. And I don't necessarily want to do that, but I like the idea that it's like, when we go out, we can put ourselves out there more. It's a little bit difficult being introverts, where it's like, we just want some time to ourselves type of thing. We have a lot of time to ourselves.
So when we were at BlizzCon, there was an amazing cosplayer that came to meet us, and she was so absolutely nice, and I felt so bad because we were so awkward.
We're just very awkward people.
We're just really awkward people, and I was like, I don't know how to engage with this person because she's super cute, and I'm like, I look like a bag of trash.
You do not look like a bag of trash. You guys are both super cute. But I just do the thing where I'm like, I'm a dopey, tall, fat guy, so I will wave with both hands and be like, hello. Like, that's all I can do. Because I just, I don't have, like, you keep saying, like, I'm charismatic, but realistically, it's like, I just would rather talk to people than stand around and feel awkward, so I break the silence with awkward conversation instead. So she was really sweet, and I just felt so bad because we were so strange. Every time someone leaves after they meet us, I'm like, we have got to be the most disappointing people to meet.
I know! I'm just like, oh man, they must hate us! Are you ready for the next question, or?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, so this one's from I'm What's for Dinner.
That's such a good name.
And this is in Discord, right?
Yeah, this is in Discord.
So the question is, what made you guys realize you wanted to be together in a long-term / permanent relationship?
Dead ass.
Oh, shut up. These are stupid answers. Stop it.
The fact that she gets so mad when I joke around sometimes.
Did I actually say that I wanted to be?
Wow.
No, I don't know. You're just so cute, and you're funny, and you like video games, and...
I used to be super hat.
Yeah, he used to be super... No, joking.
Wow.
You're still super cute.
I used to be super hat. Now I'm just super cute. It's fine.
And... Sorry.
I used to be much skinnier and in much better shape.
We both did. Anyway, so shit. I don't know. I think we just really got along, and we enjoyed each other's company, and I think that's really what it comes down to, because... if you can't stand that other person, there's no point spending so much time with them.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm sure there are people out there that get into these relationships where they feel like they have to settle because they're never going to get anything better.
They feel that way.
They're
lonely.
And that's not necessarily the case, And I think everybody should reach for whatever they want. If you want somebody that wants to do all these nerdy things with you, then try and get out there, Find that person for yourself. Don't ever settle for someone who's going to treat you less than what you deserve to be treated.
Yeah. I think the short answer for me, and I'll do short and long because I don't know how to give a short answer. The short answer for me is when I realized literally everything I wanted to do with her. Because she's my best friend. And you hear a lot of people talk about like, my significant other is my best friend, and I'd never felt like that before. And when I moved to Las Vegas, this is the beginning of my long answer. When I moved to Las Vegas, I moved by myself. It was just me. I had an aunt and an uncle that lived out here who I wound up not talking to a little bit after I moved out here. But it was just me, and I really wanted to get to a point where I was extremely comfortable being not just on my own, but just alone, Being a person that has some issues that I work through, and being a person that is kind of insecure, I would rather be alone than in a relationship and lonely. Because I think that is the most toxic environment you can put yourself in, where you have a commitment to someone else because you're in this relationship and you have all these things that you have to do. And I'm realizing as I'm saying this, like, I'm hoping not destroying anyone's relationship right now.
Oh, God. The glass is shattering.
Right. I never like the fact where it's like when you share your life with someone else that you feel like they're taking your time rather than being a part of your life. You know what I mean? And I never felt that way in any of my previous relationships before. And I never let them go too long, like 3 or 4 months, maybe 6 months, where I was like, hey, like, I don't know if this is a permanent thing. And by now, I should know. And I was very much the person where it's like, all right, we should stop. And because of that, I think I didn't have a whole lot of exes that like hated my guts. They were just like, I respect that you actually told me that you felt that way so we could go our separate ways and not have to hate each other after committing, a bunch of years to each other and then splitting up because it never was going to work out. But when I met Robin and we started hanging out more and more, I realized like, wow, she legitimately is my best friend. And every time I tell a stupid joke, I want it to be her I'm telling it to. And I told her this like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Like, I sit at work and I like daydream about stupid ways to impress her still.
Well, I mean, when we first started dating, I was like, what can I do to impress him? And
now she's like, what can I do until he snaps?
Well, so when we first started dating, I would hang out at his house and he'd be at work and he'd get home and I'd be playing StarCraft or I'd be playing SimCity.
I was so pissed. I spent days on my city and I couldn't get it past a certain population. She spent a couple hours and her population was 4 times higher than mine. I was
making bank.
I was pissed.
And I was getting all these achievements. And he's just like, what the fuck?
I was blown away.
But I mean, now I'm just like, I don't care about your video games. I'm going to play Overwatch forever. So
we play Overwatch together. So
yeah.
Which I tried to get her into when it first came out. She's like, I don't like it. Okay, I don't want to play Overwatch with you. And then she finally picked it up and played it. And she was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm going to play it forever now. And I was just like, great, awesome. Well, now that I'm out of it, you want to play it.
Well, now we just got Pokemon Sword and Shield. And I'm like getting way ahead of you in Sword and Shield because
I was pulling a little bit ahead, but I haven't been feeling well. So I've been committing my free time to sleep now. So
yeah. So I'm like on Route 5 now. And so I took a break. I'm like, I'm going back to the wild area. I'm going to wait for him because he's still on Route 3. I'm like, I'll just do this random shit until you're ready again.
Yeah. So that's our really, really long answer of what made us realize we wanted to be in a long-term
that end didn't really make any sense, but okay.
It's because she's so excited and she wants to get back to Pokemon.
I just really want to play Pokemon again. Okay, your turn.
All right, so before we move on, we're going to take a quick break and just toss in a couple ads right here. So if you're on YouTube, you don't have to worry about it, but anywhere else, or if you're on YouTube, or if you're on Patreon don't get the ads. They get the raw file and they just hear the break and then it goes straight back into it. So yeah, if you're in those two places, we'll be right back. And otherwise, it'll be just a little bit longer. So bear with us for just a moment.
That's where you put in the... Sorry. Okay. But commercials. These are the commercials.
And we're back. Okay. Thank you for bearing with us. We appreciate that. We're going to start out the second half. Holy shit, this is a long episode. We're
in an hour. Shit.
We're seriously considering doing 2 topics in addition to all these questions. And Robin's like, I think we should probably just do the questions because we were talking about that we want to read everyone's. And we're at the halfway mark. So we'll try and do a speed round. Probably won't work. So I have a blank one here because Robin stole one of my questions. So I'm going to let you go first on this while I think of a question. So
okay, so my question is, where do you pull inspiration from when you podcast? Like, is there a certain person that inspires you in how you communicate your stories or tell your stories or what?
For me, there's a few people. I always think about this and it's kind of shitty, but in 3rd grade, they had, like, you have a convocation where you all go to the gymnasium and then someone speaks to you. They had a storytelling one, and this guy was on stage and he was telling a bunch of stories, and they were, like, supposed to be funny and supposed to be, like, one of them was supposed to be spooky. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, wow, he sucks.
Wow.
It's not interesting. They're not funny. But I admired the fact that he was talking to so many people. It was like one of those things when you're really young where you have an adult thought. And the thought was, like, translated into adult speak, like, this dude is really putting himself out there. And he's committing to his bit, even though his bit sucks. And it's because he's talking to kids, He has to have, like, this content because most kids think this shit is funny. And I just remember seeing that and being like, if I tell a story, I want everyone to like it. I don't just want some people to like it, And then the older I got, the more frustrated I would get listening to people tell stories because I'd be thinking to myself, like, I have no idea what the fuck you're trying to say because you don't use words correctly.
Right.
And you bounce all over the place, not just in tangents where, oh, I thought of this other funny thing or this leads into this, but you bounce off of one thing and you forget where you're at or you tell the punchline wrong or stuff like that. So I think that was the first thing I really was inspired by to tell stories or podcast the way I do at this point is just I want people to understand what I'm trying to say. And when I was in high school, I think the first time I ever mimicked my speech pattern after someone was Jon Stewart from The Daily Show. I used to watch The Daily Show when it was Craig Kilborn, and it was a very different show then. And then Jon Stewart took over, and I was so impressed by the way he spoke was hilarious and intelligent that I really wanted to model the way I talked in high school, which is funny because I had eliminated from my vocabulary because I had speech like 2 or 3 years in a row. And the thing that Jon Stewart does the most is he takes deliberate vocal pauses for effect. And he does punchline. And I started doing that in high school. And someone pointed it out to me, like, you say that a lot. I was like, shit, I need to change how I speak. So it kind of changed a little bit. But I always wanted to sound funny and intelligent. And I think that was one of the few people that I actually modeled how I spoke after and how they told stories or made a point where it could be hilarious and make you cry at the same time. So it's just, it's the content I really started to get into when I was young. You know, it's something that's funny, and they had such good correspondence at that time. It was Steve Carell and Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart. It was like the golden age of The Daily Show, and Samantha Bee and all these other people that were just absolutely hilarious. And I remember thinking, like, I would really like to do something like that. But being a kid, you have no idea how you could actually get there. And we don't really do anything like that, but we do. This is more like that than working at a bank is like that. You know what I mean? So I think that's probably where I draw inspiration from. What about you? Where did you draw inspiration from?
Honestly, I try to be both informing and funny, like the girls at MFM. I love them, and I just think that it's cool that they just have regular conversation, like two normal people, and they have conversation with each other, and they can laugh and make jokes, but still respect whatever story it is that they're telling.
Right.
So, I mean, that's all I do. And mostly when I'm talking or when I'm communicating, there's no radio voice. I'm not making anything up. This is how I talk in real life. I am this awkward.
This is not an act.
This is not an act.
We don't have characters for the show. Like, you see some YouTubers and they have characters that they kind of play, or voices. This is just us, man.
Yes. So when you meet us, it's like, oh no, they really are these people.
Right. They really are that awkward. I think MFM absolutely inspired how I wanted the cadence of the show to be. I wanted to cover stuff, but I also wanted to talk about stuff going on in our lives and let people in. Right. I think it's the bravest thing you can do as a content creator is to not just make a script and read it.
You're literally putting yourself out there.
It's one thing to do something like lore, where you start a script and you read it and you can write it and put more effort into it than we do probably in trying to make it scarier.
Oh, yeah.
But I want people to connect to us on a different level where they do feel like they're our friends because they're listening to what we talk about and they know about what's going on in our lives.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think MFM is the show that really made me realize you can do that with serious content. Because I was listening to a lot of stuff about video games and listening to some interview shows where they didn't really talk too deeply personal about their day-to-day, but like the milestones in their life. And when you showed me MFM, I was like, holy shit, like, these ladies get it. Like, this show is gonna be huge. And by then
they are huge.
It was already huge, but it's like...
Did you see they have their own animation now on YouTube?
I did not, but they deserve every bit of that. And I think as far as, like, inspiration goes, like, Karen and Georgia are definitely an inspiration because they grinded, man. Like, they worked their ass off for so many years, and they did it in a really sexist environment that does not respect the way someone like they can create content. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they just kept plowing ahead, and they have this thing that no one else has. Everyone else wants it, and no one else has it, and the reason they have it is because they fucking deserve it. And I think that's kind of why we don't miss an episode, is because you have to have that sort of work ethic and that mindset of, like, we are going to do this, rain or shine, vacation or funeral. There's going to be a scary-ish every
like
Tuesday and every Friday. What about Flophouse?
Because they did their podcast for so many years before someone was like...
They didn't hit maximum fun until 7 years into their show.
Right.
Yeah. And those guys, that's the other thing, too, is like, this is why I don't know how big our show will get, and I think we have sort of a glass ceiling, is we don't know anyone famous. You know,
No.
We have some friends that are moderately grinding out, like Christopher Alton, who his wife is the one who did the Cat Steve book.
Yeah.
You know, he's an actor. He grinds his ass off to try and get roles, and he does his great work. And I think he's the only person that we've ever met who probably has that sort of connection to, like, show business type of thing.
We have a friend named Cameron who does plays and does all that stuff.
But I think these people that have really successful shows or successful content have all been plugged in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
Like Karen and Georgia, they have been grinding for so long. They had all these connections.
They're in the industry.
They're in the industry, you know. And there's always, like, MFM, or not MFM, I'm sorry, Mabim Bam, My Brother and Me, Adventure Zone. They're friends with Lin-Manuel Miranda. And because their dad had been in the radio business for 40 years, like, they had guests on there that were kind of famous. and we don't have a way to really access a larger audience through someone's following type of thing, which I think will lead into something else we talk about a little bit later. It actually might have been something I wanted to say for future goals for the podcast. Like, I would really like to reach out to people I don't know to have guest spots on the show, rather than like, we have friends that have great stories we want to have on. Like, I know this person has a great story based off of an interview I've seen them do or stories I've heard about them, and reach out to like either other podcasters or content creators.
Yeah.
I am the kind of person who is more than willing to reach out to like A-list celebrities, because they'll never read my tweet, you know what I mean? But on the off chance they do, and they're like, I'll go slum it for a little while on this shitty little podcast and go and tell my story.
Oh
like,
my gosh.
Literally something like that could change our lives overnight. You know what I mean?
Right.
So all you can do is ask. All they can do is say no or say nothing, in which case, like, you don't really feel the sting of rejection. So, all right. I know that's a little bit off the beaten path from that.
Okay. Your turn. You had your question. I asked mine first, and now it's your turn to make up your question.
Oh, I gotta make one up. This is so difficult. What is the most, and I know this is gonna sound weird, what's the most touched you have been since you started this show?
How touched I've been in regards to the podcast?
Yeah.
I touched, I think it was just Sam and Andrew getting married. Meeting through the podcast, getting married, getting invited to their wedding. I think that made me just full of feels, because we did something good. Whether
or not the show is good, which is subjective, the fact that two people liked it and were able to meet through it is pretty friggin' cool.
Yeah,
I'm still mind blown about that. And I think there's a few of them for me, and I was thinking about ways I could work them in. So I think this is probably why I wound up doing this question. The first one is my friend Garrett. My friend Garrett, like I mentioned, he works on podcasts. He was one of the people that listened to every episode of Nerd Chills, so I feel like I owe him money for that. Because it wasn't the greatest content, but it was something that I felt like I was really getting a feel for the content I did want to make.
It's like learning how to.
Yeah, absolutely. It really was. And he's listened to every episode of Scary-ish as well. And he reached out to me when we're, I think, like 10 episodes, 15 episodes in, and he talked to me for like an hour and a half just to let me know how good the show was.
Yay!
Like, straight up, like, he told me, like, I listened to a lot of stuff, like, you guys have something. And he's like, and Robin, and he had met Robin before, you know, we had hung out and talked. He's like, I've never heard her talk like this. Like, I feel like I know her more and know her better from listening to the show. Like, and that's so big. And like, he really did inspire me to kind of keep going, and not just keep going, but like double down on what we're doing. Like, you create something and like you worry about like, should I share this on my Facebook? Should I tweet this on my Twitter? Will this annoy people? And I think after talking to Garrett, I was like, I don't give a shit if it annoys people, because I'm proud of this, and they can ignore it if they want to, or they can snooze me or any of my posts, but it's something that I'm proud that we're creating, and I want people to know it's out there. Another one is my friend Tim. My friend Tim lives in Indianapolis. We don't see each other very often. I've stood up in his wedding twice. And,
oh my God.
And he texted me and he was like, hey, I started listening to your show. And I was like, that's awesome. I was like, which episode do you listen to? He's like, all of them. And he texted me just to tell me he was proud of me.
Aw, that's so cute. Are you going to cry?
And I was like, I'm a little bit emotional, because like, you don't get a text message like that. And like, you have friends that believe in you, but sometimes they go out of their way to say something like, I'm proud of you. And you could say that to anyone. You literally, anytime at any point of your day, could reach out to someone you care for and be like, yo, I'm proud of you. And he did. And it was because of the show. And I was like, damn, dude, like, that means so much. And it's like, at the time he texted me that, I was like, I have worked my ass off at like my day-to-day job for so long, whether it was GameStop or Tesla. And that's something that you should be proud of someone for as well. But this thing that I make, at the time, made no money doing. But I just busted my ass on and put my heart and soul into, like, a friend that I honestly don't expect my friends to listen to any of this.
And then John's wife?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
People that we know, it's one thing that when you have people you don't know reach out to you, but when you have people you know, because a lot of times people are cynical when they see one of their friends is making something, they're like, oh, whatever, like, I'm not going to, like, listen to what they have to say.
Mariana,
I know them too well. And then you have people that you do know that listen to your shit and support your stuff that you do, and it really does mean a whole lot. And
I cannot. It blows my mind when it's someone that I don't know very well, but that they're so supportive and they spend so much time clicking like on every single post, you know?
Every single one.
I cannot believe, like, Mariana is probably the nicest person I've ever met, and it's insane.
Yeah. And I think the last thing I'll say about it, too, is I think we've only had one email where... I don't think we've had one. We've had a couple emails where people have criticized content as, like, you did this wrong, or you said this wrong. Not a correction, but, like, being kind of a dick about it.
Well,
you know?
We've had messages where it's something...
Maybe, like, 2 or 3, you know?
Like, maybe you should do some vocal warm-ups before you start, or
we've
stop doing this, or stop doing that.
We've had criticisms we could probably count on a single hand, and those do sting, you know? And I think when you start creating content or creating anything, like, you're worried about criticism. This is something I thought about today, going through Instagram, through all the messages we get, to see if anyone sent us questions. We have probably received, realistically,
hundreds of messages.
1,000 times the amount of support that we've ever gotten. Being that if we've gotten 5 complaints, we've gotten 5,000 compliments. And because it is human nature, and someone that is negative, you don't let yourself think about that stuff. You think much more about the 5 nasty things that you got compared to the 5,000 things. But sometimes you stop and you kind of take a look at the stuff, and you're like, damn, dude, like, people go out of their way a lot to tell us, like, I love your show. Like, what you guys do helps me. And I'm like, I never let myself focus on that. And I should. That really should be more motivating for me than the negative shit.
Yeah.
But whatever makes me create the content that helps people is the fuel that I'm going to use. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I love reading the good reviews, and it really hurts when we read the bad ones, but...
I've stopped reading iTunes reviews.
You have?
I check them once a month at most at this point.
Okay, but there's... I mean, how are they?
I get anxiety clicking on them. So the last time I checked it, though, we had gotten all new 5 stars.
Okay, good. Sweet.
So, yeah, it's just one of those things. It'll never go away, where when you go to check and see how people are rating and reviewing your content, it's one thing. And then when I see the download numbers, I'm like, you know what? I don't even give a shit if we get a bad review. I'm like, I don't even care, because some people are nasty, some people review bomb because they're starting their own show, and it's one of those things where
you cannot
focus on the negative stuff.
Like, say you get 100 thumbs up on YouTube, you can't focus on the 1 thumbs down.
Yep.
So, I mean...
You just got to keep looking forward.
We just got to keep looking forward.
And trust in what you're doing. All right, we're going to get to the rest of these questions from you folks. I know this is going to be a long episode. Hey, it's episode 104.
You're getting to know us better.
You should have expected it. And on top of that, we're reading and answering your questions. So I hope you folks enjoy this. The next one is, has there been a topic you guys consider too scary to do? That's from Elijah's new otter car.
I love that.
Which is such a bizarre name.
No, not so far. Not yet.
If it's that scary, I want to do it.
Yes.
I want to cover it in glorious detail and turn off the office light so I can scare Robin while I cover it.
Oh my gosh. It's scarier for me to play horror games than it is to research these topics.
The most creeped out I get is researching extraterrestrials or aliens. Just because it's...
to me, it's just like aliens. I don't know. Aliens don't freak me out that much.
For me, it's not a punchline. For me, it's something that I think sincerely... It's something I'm the least skeptical on.
Really?
And if I draw too much attention to myself...
That's something you're least skeptical on?
It's, to me, the most likely thing.
You don't believe in ghosts, but...
I don't not believe in ghosts. I just think that a lot of times when people say they've seen a ghost, they haven't. I think that the likelihood that a lot of these things that are super, super documented are real is a lot higher than things that are not documented.
I mean, I think aliens are a thing, and I think there are a bunch of cover-ups over alien encounters.
That's the thing that I think creeps me out the most. 2 things can happen if you draw too much attention to yourself. The aliens notice you, and that's going to be fucked up. Or the people trying to hide the fact that aliens exist notice you, and then you're just going to disappear. And in either case, it's pretty fucking creepy. And that is one of the topics where if I want to cover it, I am going to do thorough research into the claims, into the witnesses, into anything happening that... like year astronomically or astrologically or however the fuck that you say that.
I kind of want to cover Men in Black.
I tried to cover Men in Black. All it does is it brings up information on the movie.
So there's a documentary that I was watching. I don't know if it was on YouTube. I don't remember where I saw it. But when I think it was Dan Aykroyd, he was doing something. and Men in Black came to him and were like, you need to stop what you're working on right now. And I forget what it was, and I feel like it had to do with aliens or something. This is why
you got to do research.
But he believes in aliens.
Well, yeah, dude, he wrote Ghostbusters. Like, a lot of that stuff is from knowledge that he had in his brain.
Yeah.
Because he believes in the paranormal and the occult and extraterrestrials.
So, man, I wish I remembered what it was. I should have written it down. But it made me really want to research Men in Black because a whole bunch of people have experienced these strange things.
Yeah, and there's such a thing as, like, intimidation. People show up and tell people you didn't see anything. You know, that happens in all these different cases where it could be, you know, just a regular criminal case to like something very important that people are trying to keep secret. And regardless of what it is, like there have been witness intimidation cases that have gone to court and like been presented and were absolutely real. So it's not shocking to think that's like there would be an organization of people in charge of like getting people to shut the fuck up on something that was like that serious. So, okay. Moving on to the next one. You take this one, Robin.
So this one's from The Hamburglar on Discord, and the question is, how do we go about adopting you guys as our best friends? Asking for a friend. I think that's really cute. Everyone's our friend. I mean, everyone's our spooky friend, you know? So, you can't really adopt us as your best friends, but we can all be friends.
Yeah, that works. I mean, we also love food.
Oh, yeah.
And we love food. We love care packages. So send us. We have our P.O. box up on our website if you ever want to send us something. I know some folks have sent us stuff recently.
I love regional food. I love things that you can't really get here. So someone sent us some candy from Asia that I had never had before. That was really cool. I love snacks like all dressed chips that we don't really get out here, you know, so... if you guys were ever
the key to our hearts is through our stomachs.
Through food?
So that's the best way, I think.
So you go to the next one.
So the next one is, will there be more episodes with people coming onto the show in the future? This one's from Lilo267.
We would like to. We've been asked to special guest on a lot of people's different shows, and we just never get the time and the energy.
We've been asked a lot for crossover episodes. Mm-hmm. And I never really thought we would have this problem, and it's not exactly a problem. Before, I would have just been like, yeah, sure, I'd absolutely love to do it. But because of the way Scary-ish has developed over the last 2 years, I am very cautious cross-pollinating our listener base with a potentially toxic listener base.
Yes, because we like having a community that is open and accepting and friendly to everyone.
It makes it a lot harder to grow as a podcast when you don't do cross-promotional stuff with other people's podcasts. But sometimes, like...
Dead's better.
Sometimes dead's better. No, realistically, a lot of times in my life, the way I've known I'm doing something the right way is because it's hard. If I'm doing it easy, then I'm probably doing it wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that always felt like the right way for us to do things. So we're very picky about who we might cross-pollinate with, because I think a lot of people sincerely want to have us on their show so they can come onto our show and cross-pollinate our listener base with their content. And as much as I do like supporting people, I like helping them set up their shows. I like advertising for them or giving them shout-outs. I am very careful about, you know, doing that with the wrong groups of people.
Right.
Know? And it's not a shot at anyone who's ever like asked us to be on their show or asked to come on our show at all. We've just gotten a lot of requests in the past where we're like, let's just see what their social media is like, you know, or let's check out and see like what their content's like. And sometimes we're like, yeah, we could do this, and then we just wind up not following up on it or whatever. And then sometimes we're like, this one I'm not so sure about.
Sometimes it requires a lot of extra research on top of our research, and we just don't have the time or the energy to add on top of our work plate as it is. So that's hopefully, though, in the future. I mean, we do want to bring some special guests on.
I have a few streamers that I watch that I definitely want to reach out to, just because I'm a fan of theirs. I think it'd be super cool just to reach out to them, and they engage really well with their community, and just let them know, like, hey, like, you probably don't need me as much as I need you. However, I think it'd be really cool to like sit down and talk to you about if you have a ghost story, you know?
Right.
Do you have something paranormal or true crime that you would want to come onto a podcast and talk about? Because you talk for a living all day while you're playing video games or making YouTube videos or whatever. I think it'd be really cool to have you on this show and hear what you have to say about something outside of the norm of what you usually talk about. Yeah. But we'll see. I do want to have more interview segments, mainly just because we're running out of topics to do. But yeah, I think it's a really nice transition. We really aren't running out of topics. We are going to start a transition at some point into more true crime, which I'm pretty sure Robin is super excited about.
My sister, my older sister, she called me and she's like, I really like this season of serial killers.
Yeah, we had a lot of response that was super positive for season of serial killers.
So yeah, I love true crime. So it's in the future.
Yeah, we have a lot of connection to like true crime in our personal life, not because we're criminals, but we have a lot of law enforcement in our families, both of our families, like. And, you know, Spooky Mom, you know, FYI, was a court reporter for 20 years. So she has crazy fucking stories.
Yeah, my older sister has insane stories with what she used to do. And my uncle has crazy stories. I've had a lot of military people in my family. And so it's just...
We heard some crazy stories this Saturday.
Oh my God, I swear. My family is so weird. My grandpa and my dad are both like... Everyone during the war died.
I mean, they're from Vietnam. It's a different way to hear about the Vietnam War from people who were fighting on our side, but were native to that country.
Right.
It's mind-blowing. It's excellent. Like, I sat there fascinated listening to them talk. All right, let's move on to the next one.
So this one's from Plutonium Rainbow on Discord, and the question is, what is the scariest experience you both have ever had? Scariest experience?
I don't know if it's going to be necessarily paranormal.
Yeah, I was going to say probably a car accident where someone ran a stop sign and I hit them like T-boned their car. So that was scary. Well, no. I remember when my mom got hit in a car accident and I was in the car with my dad behind her, and that was scary because I was just like, holy shit. Is my mom okay? I think that's the scariest thing for me.
I think for me, the scariest things that I've had to deal with is someone else okay versus something that happened to me. I think the scariest thing I've ever dealt with is I was outside during a thunderstorm once and lightning struck like right next to me, and it was so loud my knees buckled, like just from like there's a giant flash of light in my face where like I literally saw nothing but the color purple. And then all of a sudden, like, it was so loud, like, my body crumpled.
That's insane.
And I just remember being on the ground because I was knocked down by it and thinking, did I just get struck by lightning? And I was literally trembling because so much adrenaline had pumped through my system. Oh, yeah. It was like I was a person who just bought their body and didn't know how to use it yet. That's a really good John Mulaney joke that aptly describes how I felt because I was, like, all limbs, like, trying to get up and run inside the house all freaked out. When I was a kid, I watched my mom get into a car accident. As an adult, I realized it's not. She was struck passenger side. She was turning across oncoming traffic.
My mom got hit on the driver's side, dude.
Yeah,
I was just like, holy fuck.
Terrified when I saw that. And my dad and I were standing outside of a barbershop in Portage, Indiana, and we saw it happen. We walked all the way down to her, and she was fine. But I remember as a kid, that's probably the most terrified I've ever been. I literally thought I was like, I just watched my mom die. My mom got out of the car like, motherfucker! So... It wasn't that serious, but I remember being terrified. We got a call one time. My dad had been in a car accident, and they didn't let us talk to him.
No.
They're like, you need to get down here right away.
That's horrifying.
So my mom was terrified, and then we were driving there, and an ambulance passed by us with its lights on. And my mom was like, that could be your dad. She just said, that could be your dad. I was in second grade, I think. And I was just like, I think my dad's dead. You know, and then we got there, and he was just standing there like, I don't know why they wouldn't let me talk to you. Like, the car phone got smashed when I got into the accident.
The car phone.
So, because it was a phone that was attached to your car, it wasn't a cell phone, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was probably the scariest shit that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, watching my mom get hit by a car, that was super duper scary, because the dudes ran this, like, so when we had to turn into our house, there was no turning lane, which is so dumb, but it's one way, each way, no turning lane, so you had to stop on the road to turn left into where we lived, right? And so it was two cars stopped because my mom and my dad's car stopped behind each other. And then this Jeep behind us was like, I'm not waiting for these people. So as my mom's turning left, they go on the left side and hit her while she's turning left. And so they hit her, crush a stop sign, like take the whole stop sign out. And like it was just insane. I remember watching that. I think I was maybe 8th grade or something, but I was freaking out like, holy crap. And my dad's just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So it was just insane, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty scary shit.
Yeah.
I think the only paranormal thing I might be like really scared of is when I was a kid, I thought I saw like the Grim Reaper's face in the mirror. And looking back on it, I think I don't rate that very highly because I'm like, I was a kid. You know, I was probably just seeing shit. But when I look back on, like, I'm actually like conjuring up the memory, I'm like, no, I remember being pretty rational about like what could be that reflection and like feeling like this thing like kind of turned, like just adjusted to get a better look at me. And yeah, I just got cold just thinking about that. But yeah, I was pretty fucking terrified as a kid when that happened.
Well,
I was
and it's weird
really young too.
When you're a kid, you're like, I see things because you're innocent.
Yeah.
And the older you get, you just stop seeing those things.
Just the idea that I was looking at something, then I suddenly felt like it was looking back at me.
Ugh, okay.
Just scared the shit out of me.
Next question, you read.
All right, so we have a few questions now that are going to come up that are from Akbar, who posted them in sequence, like bam, 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 on our Discord. So the first one is, are there taboo topics you won't speak about?
When it comes to scary-ish, we probably won't talk about weird sex things that don't make sense to the podcast.
As far as topics go,
politics.
We will never talk about politics on the show.
Yeah,
we want it to be an apolitical zone where everyone feels comfortable listening to our content regardless of where you're from or what your alignment is or what your political party is, because there's a million places you can get that content, and we are about bringing people together. And I'm not a fan of drawing lines that kind of push people apart. As far as topics for the show goes, I don't think there's anything taboo when it comes to paranormal or true crime. I will say I have personally been very reluctant to cover anything by H.P. Lovecraft, despite the fact that Cthulhu is so fascinating and has such a huge following, because H.P. Lovecraft was a horrible racist.
Yeah.
And so every time I'm looking through topics and I see Lovecraft-Cthulhu on our Google Doc, I have a little parenthetical next to it that says, nah, he's a racist. So sometimes I'm like, I will cover it eventually because I do separate art from artists, and I definitely want to make sure I'm doing my due diligence and informing the fan base, the listener base of things that are fascinating. And Cthulhu most certainly is, but I'm just like, I can make this dude wait. Like, the more I look into stuff, I have to avoid looking into stuff about H.P. Lovecraft himself, because I'm like, God, what a piece of shit. So, that's one for me that's not exactly taboo, but it's definitely on the back burner.
And then there is, have you ever thought bad about a person or a story? I know there's stories where we're like, that's not real. There's no way.
Yeah, I have never really thought bad about a person.
No, but
I've mentioned like, wow, what a piece of shit, or oh my God, what a slut.
Yeah.
Because we're going through topics about people who are like awful to their. I think we did a couple episodes where we talked about like a curse on a family. I think it might have been Whaley House, where people were just so mean to a woman because her husband left her. Her husband was
something like
a
that.
fraudster that they just harassed her and treat her like shit and ostracized her from the community until she wound up committing suicide. I think during that story, I thought, like, you know what? Fuck all those people. Like, I hate them.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not a whole lot where, like, I can think of one specific instance where I thought really bad.
Yeah.
You know? All right, the next one is, do you guys have certain people recognize you, i.e. coworkers or colleagues?
We probably annoy our coworkers and colleagues with how much we talk about our freaking podcast.
Yeah.
My coworkers are like, oh, I'll follow you on YouTube, or I'll follow you on Twitch, or whatever. And so that's really nice. One of my coworkers recently started following us, and I thought that was so nice of her because she's fairly new to our workplace, and the fact that she's nice enough to be like, oh yeah, I'll totally listen because I like that stuff, you know? I thought that was really nice of her. But recognizing us as those people, not so much.
I never had a coworker be like, are you that Adam? Like, that's never happened. I've had coworkers at work be really supportive and start listening to the show, and then tell other people within the building, like, you should listen to Adam's podcast, which is really nice of them.
That's so nice.
I've never been recognized at work. I think we've only been recognized
at Disneyland that one time.
One time we were actually doing a Spooky Friends meetup.
Yeah.
And we've been like kind of gathering a few people as we were walking around the park that were there for the meetup. And then someone came up to us and they're like, hey, are you Adam and Robin from Scary-ish?
Yeah.
And I was like, yep, are you here for the meetup?
And they were the nicest people.
Yeah.
Everyone, you guys are all so incredibly nice. You guys rode rides with us. It was great. You guys are so fun.
We got to
and
meet
so
Jang Mi that day. We got to meet a bunch of people
Yeah, we
that
got
day.
to meet so many people.
The people that came up to us and recognized us were Aerosin and Billy.
Yeah.
Aerosin is what their name is on Instagram. I don't remember the actual name. And then Billy, I forget his last name, but we follow him on social media as well.
Yeah, and they spent the whole day with us. They spent their whole freaking day with us, and I cannot believe it. You guys are so nice.
It was just cool because we were like, oh yeah, are you here for the meetup? And I remember her saying like, no.
We just came to Disneyland.
They just came to Disneyland and they noticed us. And then like afterwards we got in the car and we were going
oh
home.
My God!
And I was like, did we just get recognized? Like, did that just happen? It was it was a really cool feeling.
The next question is, will we get more guest videos? Hopefully, if we can get more guests.
Yeah. So when we had Ralph on, we did the video, and it was a whole lot more editing than it is when it's just audio, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's a little bit of a drift, there's a little bit of a sync, and, you know, sometimes Adobe Premiere is not the easiest thing to use. And a lot of times we record kind of last minute. Mm-hmm. Not for the Storytime episodes because we do those 2 days early and they post to Patreon 2 days early. But for the topic episodes, those do tend to be a little bit closer to release time. So the last couple interview episodes that we've done, I've been like, yeah, let's not worry about the camera. If we do guest videos, I think I would love to do stuff where we're not just doing a topic episode. We're going and doing something. Yeah, you know?
Right.
That would be super fun.
Like going to meet up with a certain person and they have all these stories, or maybe we can walk around with them and they can be like, this is what happened here. This is what happened here.
We've started reaching out to more businesses too to be like, hey, we have a paranormal podcast. We would love to come visit your shit. You reached out to that place in LA or whatever. Yeah. And then we've been reaching out to a few other places locally. And I kind of do hope to, at the very least, if we don't get like comped, or have a meetup sponsor or anything like that, just kind of get permission to bring a camera in. I'd love to go back to, what is it, Good Springs or Bonnie Springs?
Oh, yeah.
The one with the haunted bathroom you were afraid to pee alone in.
Because the people there were really nice.
Yeah, they were.
They were super nice. They have amazing pancakes. But it was just really, a really nice, chill experience. I'd like to get down to the weight I was when we went there the first time.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Like, I was
we were like,
we looked good.
Yeah, we looked good back then.
Good.
Anyway, so next question. Will you guys do an Adam versus Robin topic battle where you two do two topics and we, as the Spooky Council, get to decide who did a better topic? I don't think that would work out.
I feel we already do that every week. You guys aren't assembling the Spooky Council to decide who had the better topic every single week? Yeah, I thought that's what you guys did.
Each week we do cover opposing topics. I personally
not necessarily opposing,
but topics that don't necessarily fit together. And I, in the future, would like to do more topics where they kind of go together, like the Charles Manson one.
Right. It's kind of hard to find that overlap. And we started out the podcast trying to do stuff that matched.
Right.
When we realized it was a lot more difficult to do that when we just both had other shit we wanted to do.
Yes. I know in the beginning of the show, we used to do overall themed topics. But now that...
Fuck it.
Yeah, we're just like, I'm doing the super obscure haunting of this really obscure place.
Yeah. It's like, well, I'm doing a cryptid from the other side of the planet.
So, yeah, I think I would like to do things that fit together more, because we do that every week, where it's different topics, and we kind of just, I don't know, do them.
So the next question is actually a follow-up to that one, and this is from Elijah's New Otter Car, and they said... what if you independently research the same topic and we decide which is better?
I was thinking about that tonight. So instead of doing two separate topics while we do the Q&A episode, that we would just research the same topic and kind of cover it together. But Adam's like, how would we even do that?
I was like, how would we do that? I think the thing that goes into my brain when I hear that is our episodes will be shorter and... we won't have as much interaction with each other because it's not like we're teaching you something new. It's like, oh yeah, I heard that too. Yeah, I heard that too.
No, yeah. So it would be more like Last Podcast on the Left, where everybody reads this script so they know everything about it.
We'd have to prepare the script together type of thing.
Yes.
It would definitely be a format change, and it's something that we can play with a little bit in the future.
But it's kind of hard.
I would not want to do, okay, now you cover Charlie Manson for 30 minutes, then I'm going to say the exact same shit with maybe one or two details that are different, and we'll let the audience decide who did it better. Because I think you guys would get to the second one and be like, I already heard all this. Why would I want to listen to it a second time?
It wouldn't be like that. It would be something like someone knows all the details, and then the other person knows like, oh, and this happened, or and this happened. And
we might play with the format a little bit.
And then the next question is, will we ever get monster topics and get more monster topics and how to defeat them? I
love the cryptid episodes. They're my favorite ones to do.
The different creatures, the different legendary creatures, like dropping 13 coins or 13 beads or throwing candy or rice at their face or stuff like that.
I have kind of leaned more towards cryptids and off of mythology so much, not because I don't like mythology. I kind of want to save it because there's so freaking much that we can cover.
I mean, I've been reading and getting all caught up and reading each new thing that comes out of Lore Olympus.
I hate you so fucking much.
It's so good.
Lore Olympus is a webtoon comic strip. If you do not know, that Robin talks about a bunch on the live episodes of Storytime with the audience, because a lot of folks actually read it also.
Yeah, webtoon is amazing.
So yeah, I would like to start doing that. And the last question we have tonight, which I was really excited when I saw it on here, is from Luke Linho, which is, what are your favorite video games? Which really ties it back to Nerd Chills a little bit, which makes me super happy.
So I love playing Overwatch. Overwatch probably in recent times has to be my all-time favorite video game of recent. And I mean, we just picked up Pokemon, and I'm super addicted to that right now.
Sword and Shield is excellent. It is really freaking good.
It is the best Pokemon game in forever. Oh my gosh, it is so good. And I'm super addicted to that right now. I love Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy is probably one of my favorite series, other than Pokemon, because I love all the Pokemon games. But I like playing those weeb type video games.
I almost told Robin to prepare her top 7 like we used to do on Nerd Chills.
On Nerd Chills.
But I was like, that's a lot of in-depth thought that goes into it. And like just preparing a top 7 and going over your 7 games is like an episode in and of itself.
Yeah, and because I love Fallout. I love Fallout. I love all the Final Fantasy games. I love Overwatch right now. That's just if I see Overwatch merch, I'm like, need to have it, you know? And Overwatch 2, can't wait. And Pokemon is just nostalgic childhood favorite. I cannot see a Pokemon game and not get it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
For me, we overlap in some ways. I do love Overwatch. Robin is much better at it than I am, and she does spend more time playing it.
We were comparing the hours of gameplay, and mine is
played almost 3 times more than I have.
The other day, my sister came over, and she's like, how are you only level 40 or level 60? And, like, I'm this level. Like,
because she's prestige twice.
And yeah, I'm like, because I've leveled through twice.
She's technically level 240 or 260.
Like, I have 2 stars next to my name. She's like, oh, okay.
Despite their like recent like troubles, I am a big fan of Blizzard. I always have been. I love the Warcraft franchise. I love real-time strategy. I love World of Warcraft. I had to remove myself from World of Warcraft so that my life could become productive again. I love StarCraft as well. So those are big ones for me. My all-time favorite series, hands down, will probably always be The Legend of Zelda. Not just because it has connections like between my parents and I and in the past and like really good child memories, but they're just excellent games. Like one of the things that I like to do, and I haven't done it in a while, in a few years, is
speedrun.
I don't really speedrun it. I just start at the original Legend of Zelda and I play through them all sequentially. And I skip the Game Boy ones because I don't bust out my Game Boy as much anymore. But
you have a Game Boy?
I mean, I'm going to have one buried somewhere. I have the one that looks like the old Nintendo console, the SP, that's the flip one. I have a Game Boy Advance somewhere. But I'll do like Legend of Zelda 2, which is like Link's Adventure, Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and like I have the ability now to do Wind Waker, Twilight Princess. I love those games. I absolutely love them. For a while, I was like, I'm just going to stream like a Zelda marathon. I think that'd be super cool to do. I like to go through games in order. Like, I almost wound up doing Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2, and Warcraft 3. And I was really close to just doing that and streaming it, just the storyline stuff, because it's so much fun and I absolutely love to do it. And then we went to BlizzCon and they announced Warcraft 3 was being remade. And I was like, I'll wait.
Is that the Reforged
I'll wait until
one?
that drops, yeah. So I've been thinking
oh my
a lot
God,
about...
Diablo. I totally forgot Diablo 4.
I've been thinking about doing Warcraft 1, Warcraft 2 storyline, and then like all the expansions for Warcraft 2, and then try and have that coincide with like the release of Warcraft 3 Reforged, so I can do the storyline for that too.
That's
I think
cute.
that'd be really fun to do. I would love to have been a streamer. It's kind of really funny too, because when Battlefield 3 first dropped, which was a while ago, it was around the last time I built a new PC. So it's probably around 10 years ago, and it was right around the time I moved to Vegas too. So because I didn't have a whole lot to do out here except for work, I would come home from work and play video games. And I didn't have a console, I just had PC. So me and a friend of mine would play Battlefield 3 a lot. And I was really, really, really good. Like, I would, like, play games where I go, like, 75 and 10, you know?
Yeah.
And it was right around the time Twitch was getting kind of big. And I set up an account, and I would stream every now and then. And I had, like, 0 or 1 or 2 people watching me. I was like, fuck this. I'm not going to do this anymore. And one of my friends, my friend Nick, he texted me, and he's like, hey, I watched one of your videos earlier today. And I was like, what do you mean? I didn't stream today. Like, I haven't streamed in, like, 2 weeks. He's like, oh, it recorded it. And I just watched it. And it was kind of awesome, like, watching you wreck face and, you know, you're hilarious. And I was like, oh, like, thanks. I didn't even think of it. And sometimes I wonder, like, had I just decided to stream, like, 6 or 7 hours a night of me doing that, like, maybe that would be my career now, which would have been super cool. I'm also not as good at games anymore and have not nearly as much free time to do.
Yeah.
But I also like don't really play a whole lot of multiplayer games anymore. I'm really more about single player experiences, which I don't think attracts as many folks anymore. But like Legend of Zelda is probably my all time favorite. I love RPGs, traditional RPGs, especially now as a grown up. I didn't like them a lot as a kid.
I just love JRPGs.
I really do too. Like I started doing Dragon Quest XI. I absolutely love that. I've never played Final Fantasy VII. I've gotten through the first disc and never gotten any further. So I've been like, one of these days I'll pick it up and just do it.
Well, they're remaking it. So
I know.
What?
So,
I already have it pre-ordered.
I mean, we're huge nerds. We absolutely love video games.
We're super big nerds. And it's not just with the video games, though. I think we like what we like, and we're not like, oh, other people don't like it, I guess we can't be into it. You know what I mean? We love movies. We love our video games. We love board games. I have a ridiculous obsession with manga. Like, I don't know.
I think we're just giant consumers of creative content.
Yes.
Like,
because we'll sit here, like, we're researching, and I'll have My Hero Academia on, and Adam will be
I'm always like, turn it off, man.
I know.
We're not going to do this episode before midnight if you don't turn this fucking thing off.
So he's looking around his monitor to watch my show. And he's like, whoa, wait, what just happened?
Yeah, I'm like, whoa, tell me what happened. I missed it.
So
yeah, I think it's a really good question to end on, because I did want to kind of close out the show and let everyone know how much we appreciate your support. We are going to keep going with this thing for as long as we possibly can. And kind of just a little peek behind the curtain. So I know we've been talking about Scene Missing for a while. We recorded a pilot episode probably 6 months ago, maybe even longer.
And we also watched the second movie for the second episode, but
technically episode 1, which will be Empire Records, which Robin always calls High Fidelity because she sucks.
It says high fidelity at the beginning of the movie.
Because that's how you describe records, as having high fidelity. Anyways, so it's something that we are actively pursuing getting put up with our new host, which is Spreaker instead of Libsyn. We won't have to pay more, which was another thing, is that we're going to have to host a new podcast, which does cost money, which will be different now that we're with Spreaker because it won't cost us. So it's more likely for us to get that up and running. And something Robin and I have talked about for a very long time is something that we'll be moving forward on pretty soon. And that's the podcasting network, so to speak, which is kind of, we want to have something we can put both of our podcasts underneath, like an umbrella. We have a name that we've picked out, and we have some ideas for what we want to put up. And that'll also give us the ability to, like, we have a friend who's talked about a podcast idea before who's really thinking about starting one. So we can kind of get her started and get her, if she decides to take off, if she decides she doesn't want to do it, that's fine. It's no big deal. But then other people could actually reach out to us and say, like, hey, like, I have content as well. And it's something that is kind of going hand in hand, at least for me, with Scene Missing, that I want them to launch At the same time, and I know it's been like massively delayed, and I sincerely do apologize for that. It would be one thing if this was our full-time career, if we made enough money to support ourselves through Scary-ish, then it would be like my life would all be about dedicating as much time to producing as much content as humanly possible. But as it is now, full-time job, Robin has a job as well, Robin goes to school. We have to make sure we have times for our adult responsibilities, and then this is kind of like the hobby that we dedicate every waking moment to that we absolutely can. And we've set aside giant chunks of our time to make sure we have Monday evening to do Scary-ish, Wednesday evening to do Scary-ish, and trying to find that same amount of time to carve out of your schedule for a second podcast is a little bit difficult when you have such little time, especially when you're trying to do new content for the old one. So that's kind of what's been going on behind the scenes on that one. But in a perfect world, I would really love in the next month or two to be announcing the name of this podcasting network, which I do air quotes for because really it's just us.
It's just us.
It's just going to be something that we set up so that you guys know where if you go to this website or if you look up this network,
you'll find all our podcasts.
You'll find all of our shit. And then if, what winds up happening is we have friends or we just, have folks that reach out to us that say, I have a podcast or I'm starting a podcast. I think it'd be really cool to be under the same umbrella as you guys so we can kind of cross-pollinate the audience. And it's something where we feel like the main thing we always want to focus on is inclusion. Like, no one should ever feel like they shouldn't listen to anything we ever produce based off of literally any single reason. Like that's something that Robin has always stressed to me is incredibly important to her before we ever started producing content. So we want to make sure that if we do wind up bringing people on that have a show that we can say like, hey, so-and-so is part of our network now.
I want it to be inclusive.
Yeah, if we're not having anything to do with producing it, being on the show, if it's something that's just autonomous completely from us but just exists under the same umbrella, as long as they're just, not dickheads, that's exactly what we're kind of looking for. And I think that's kind of the next phase of what we're trying to do. And hopefully it happens soon, fingers crossed. And if not, we'll keep working towards that goal with every bit of free time that we have. So that is definitely something I wanted to address at the 2-year mark because I do think a lot about the future and what I'd like to see us grow into. And that's just where my mind's at right now. So
cool.
What about you? What are you thinking of for our future?
I think that would be really cool. My future is I want to be done with school. So I just really, for me, that's what I'm super focused on. Really Scary-ish is a hobby for me, and it's just extra time that I take out of my day to create new merch or new designs or whatnot and research and record. And that's why it's so important that we get support and help from everyone with sharing the episodes and sharing it with your friends and things like that, because for us to be able to make this part of our actual careers, we really gotta get out there.
Yeah, I mean, what it comes down to is like, if you were doing this yourself and you have bills, if you have rent to pay and credit cards to pay and things to save up for and a car payment or whatever, you have to be able to pay those things, and Scary-ish doesn't exactly do that for us. If it did, that would be amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be like, oh my god.
For you guys, just for you guys to compare this to something, if you've ever seen the movie Wayne's World, at the beginning where he's like, what I would really like is to do Wayne's World for a career. That's basically us right now. We're both Wayne from Wayne's World. So we're trying to make sure that Rob Lowe doesn't buy our fucking show. And it's weird because we have something we've made that has actually attracted people to us. And we've had a few people reach out where we'd had to be like, we're not going to work with you, And it has not happened super often. It's happened actually very rarely. But we're also very, very careful about the fact that I think people see that there's potential in what we've made and are trying to figure out ways that they can make money off of it while being not connected to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And we're very protective of that. So a lot of things we're like, we'll do it on our own. You know? We'll do it on our own with the complete lack of free time that we have. So, I mean, I'm totally fine starting Scene Missing, because with that show, I would set up the microphones just like I do for Scary-ish, press record. We'll sit down, we'll record. Robin can go back and do homework or whatever, and I'll take care of the editing. But realistically, we have to carve out time to
watch the
movie, then sit down and record,
and then
take,
research.
Take
There's
notes
more research about the movie you have to do.
Yeah, if you're the one that's presenting the movie, we're going to have research about stuff from like IMDb trivia that you didn't know, and we kind of already have that stuff built up in our brains about the movies that we're like super passionate about. But at the same time, you want to learn more, and it's really fun to tell people stuff they didn't know about whatever movie we're covering. And a lot of times, a simple idea, if done right, winds up being a whole lot of work. And so we're trying to be cognizant of that, especially me, because for me, I only have work. I don't have school. So it's easier for me to be like, we should just do this on, Saturdays and have no free time whatsoever anymore. And Robin's like, I have fucking homework, dude. Like, how am I supposed to do my homework? I'm like, oh yeah, there's that. So yeah, that's just sort of like where we're at right now with the next
update
evolution
on our lives
of our content.
This should have just been a vlog of us just vlogging like our day. Like, oh yeah, I feel like shit. But we want to do, okay.
There's just a massive conflict right now in both of our lives of how much free time we have and how much more stuff we want to do. Like, my God, we have ideas all the time of extra content we want to create for Patreon or for Scene Missing Patreon when it gets up and running, or a new thing that we're thinking about doing with that top-down camera that Robin was mentioning where we play board games. Like, and I've been talking about that for fucking years, which I would absolutely love to do. Maybe not even star in it, but produce it and have it be high quality because I'm producing it, and stream it maybe and do it live. And it's like, when in the F are we going to get time for that?
Yeah, there's just not enough time in the day. And can't wait to have school be over.
I'm excited to get to January so I can start January Patreon push, because just maybe one of these days it'll be like Flophouse after 7 years of grinding it out, where someone stands up and takes notice, and then all of a sudden your listenership or your contributions just explode out of nowhere,
Yeah.
Or maybe, and I do think about this a lot, maybe it's not going to happen with Scarish. Maybe this is around what we're going to be at, and that's fine with us. Maybe we do something after Scarish has run its course. I said doo-doo. I know I see you're smiling.
Oh my God, shut up.
But, maybe that next thing is the thing where it's like, oh shit, like this is what we're always looking for with Scarish,
Yeah.
But I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is that whatever it is, I'm just going to work really fucking hard at it and then hope that you guys enjoy it. That's just sort of where I am with it. So. Yeah.
Also, keep the Quispy memes coming.
She fucking laughs at every single one of them.
I don't know if you folks follow us on Instagram, but the other day I was walking around school and I was like, oh my God, the leaves are all dry and they're all crispy. So I made a little video for Instagram, for our Instagram story, and just posted it on Instagram of me stepping on all the leaves, and you could just hear all the crunching, and I was just like, crispy.
It just said crispy on the video.
I love the crispy memes. They're my fave.
So I think this might be our longest episode ever, which is appropriate because,
almost 2 hours.
It's almost 2 hours. We hope you folks enjoyed it. If not, we apologize. So we definitely wanted to cover all the stuff that you folks asked us. And, when I was looking through the questions, I was like, I'm sure a few of these will go quick. I don't think a single one did. We're the king and the queen of the tangent.
We just, tangents are a thing. But hopefully you folks enjoyed it. We thank everyone who sent us their questions and made this episode possible. You guys are absolutely awesome, and we're so thankful that you folks participate and are a part of our community, and you guys are the best.
So one thing I'll highlight before we wrap this up is, like, as we were just talking, there's a lot of stuff we would like to do, and if any of that stuff sounds awesome to you, two things would really help. One, the biggest one, let us know. Tell us, I think that'd be awesome if you guys did that, because that'll really inspire us to be like, all right, we are going to carve out time from our schedule and figure out how we're going to get this going no matter what. And the second one, which isn't as important, but honestly, it really still is important, is if you guys could support us. If you guys could go over to our Patreon and sign up for on any of our tiers. They're monthly donations. They start as low as $1.
Every little bit counts.
They go up pretty high. I think they go up to like $1,000 a month. Realistically, I don't think anyone's going to sign up for that. But who knows? There might be someone.
Executive producer. You
get your title. You get your name on literally everything that we create because you're an executive producer of it, because you're pitching in your money, and you can reach out to us and talk to us about like what we're doing,
video calls, and discuss stuff with us, and
we really don't push our Patreon that hard. We don't want to cram it down anyone's throat, but it really does help. Like when December 1st hits and bills have all been paid and we're thinking about like what's the next step we take with our content, being able to go to Patreon and say like, okay, we got a little chunk of change that we can move in to our PayPal and to our Scarish account, and then figure out what we're going to use it for. And we're very, very careful with what we do with that money. So we were talking about some stuff we could do for streaming, and we realized like we don't want to put money towards a new streaming service or anything like that because we stream once a week. And then, then it comes into like, well, if we streamed more, if we had more content, this would be a wonderful investment. So every little bit that gets kicked our way absolutely helps. And you're going to be listening to me come to you hat in hand for the month of January. And I'm going to push January Patreon push really hard because I would absolutely love to get it to a point. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but if I have a day where I can literally put in my 2 weeks notice at my job because I'm going to become a full-time content creator, I'm not going to work 8-hour days as a content creator. I'm going to work from the minute I fucking wake up until the minute I go to sleep, which will probably be close to like 18-hour days, and I'm going to love every single minute of it, you know? So, but like I said, I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Yeah, so for now, if you folks could go to patreon.com/garishpodcast, there are monthly donations, just check it out. There's a whole bunch of different tiers. You can also go to ko-fi.com/scarishpodcast, and those are one-time donations. I will have to update all the goals and stuff on there because we have gotten the PC now and everything. So, yeah. Other than that, keep on creeping.
Nope.
Damn it.
Almost. If you have any topic suggestions, any commentary, or any homegrown horrors you would like to send our way, please email storytime@scarish.com or go over to our website, scarish.com, and click on Contact Us. There's a form you can fill out. Comes directly to us. You can also go to any of our social medias, facebook.com/Scarish Podcast. You can message us there. You can also go to the Spooky Friends group, which is our Facebook group. It links directly off of that Scarish page. You can post there for some instant feedback from the community. We will send that story from that, I guess it's like more of a forum. We'll send it from the group to our email address and put it in queue. You can also go over to Instagram @Scarish Podcast and message us there, or you can tweet at us @ScarishPod. I think you can direct message us on Twitter too. We don't have that locked down, so if you know how to use that, go for that. Whatever works best for you, please go ahead and do so. You can also join that Discord community by going to the website, finding all our social media links, which is in the right-hand side of the page, of every single page, in fact, and clicking on the Discord link. And it's really nice to see people kind of come in there and start chatting and get to know us a little bit. And we got most of our questions, in fact, from the Discord. So shout out to the Discord community. We love every single one of you. Shout out to everyone who listens to the show. Your support helps us in ways you will never understand. Keep moving forward, even with the things that have nothing to do with our day, because you could have an awful day anywhere you go with whatever you do. But when I can sit there and say, like, you know what? A lot of people I never met say that they like me. Like, that pushes me through some of the harder stuff in my day. So thank you sincerely to every single one of you. So now, Robin, you can go ahead and do the sign out.
Keep on creeping on, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.